session. With that, I will move, is there any changes to the agenda? Anything we move around, take off?
Nope, as presented.
Oh,
So is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Great. Moving on, is there any public comment on non-agenda items?
Yes, we have one non-agenda speaker, Linda Reese.
Good evening. My name is Linda Reese-Wall. One non-agenda item just is, again, communication. Communication remains a challenge for our district. My household is one of those where multiple adults support a student. And as an emergency contact, I am not receiving the school notices on Parent Square. So I rely upon other methods besides Parent Square. We have families in our community who also are non-parents who are supporting our students. And communication is not smooth or not included. Out of my current students, 6 teachers, only 3 of them have active websites or contact information available. The school counselor's website on that school does not exist, yet there is a spot on the first front page. So just in case students were trying to reach out to a counselor, it's not accessible. And this was on the eve of parent-teacher conferences, which were well attended, and we did have a great evening last night. As a district, we need to continue to send messages through multiple forms and more frequently. Tonight's board agenda has Redwood school data, which was inaccessible to the public, as you had to sign in with a Google account. I recall doing this as well, but it wasn't accessible until about near 5 p.m. this afternoon when I signed on a computer with a Google account. So I'm not sure, again, if that had anything to do with being able to see then the document. Social media did not include a reminder about tonight's school board meeting. And as one of our hot topics has been about the SRO, there needs to be a transparent, easy format display of the statistics of the SRO program engagements on our district's website and or police website. A monthly stat sheet would be ideal. This monthly report would be helpful for families to learn what is being brought into our schools, the kinds of drugs our kids are being exposed to, and include nomenclatures so we can learn what the latest trends are perhaps. So when the district staff communicate messages, please remember it takes a village and multiple methods, and frequently, more frequently, it helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment on non-agenda items?
No, there's not.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to our patriotic exercise, our student board member.
All right, if I could have everyone stand to follow me and the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on, number 5, acknowledgements.
Okay, so November is Good Nutrition Month, National Child Safety and Protection Month, National Family Literacy Month, National Native American Heritage Month, Retired Teachers Week, November 3rd through the 9th, National School Psychology Week, November 4th through the 8th. We all know Election Day was last week on the 5th. Veterans Day was this week on the 11th. Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day was today. Unfortunately, because of the uncertainty and the rain, we postponed that till tomorrow morning. And Thanksgiving Day will be on Thursday the 28th. We also had donations from a donation from the Mendocino Presbyterian Church to support our Giving Care Dando Cuidado program. So we appreciate that. And then we would also like to acknowledge the service, dedication, and immense work that Mary Makla has brought to our board. So we want to pause for just a minute. We do have a couple things to share with you. So.
Thank you for putting an old picture too, I like that.
That's not an old picture.
6 years ago?
6
It's on the
years ago.
website.
So we thought, something nice for you.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll-
Okay, thank you so
Bring one.
much.
And we thank you so much.
Rest. How
So-
many awards nights have I watched you?
Fall apart? Every year. Yep. No, thank you. It has been an honor. If I say any more, then I will cry. Oh, gosh.
Would you like to speak, Mary?
No, thank you. Oh, good Lord.
Oh, wait, there's more.
Thank you. Okay. You just did all this to make me cry. Thank you so much. And truly, it has been an honor. I couldn't have worked with a better group of people, and I will cry. Yeah.
And that's the Mary we love.
Yeah.
She puts her heart into everything.
Yeah, it's been
For
amazing.
sure, yeah.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure.
Yes.
And it was really cute. I had done a lot of fundraising with Mary, and our paths really wouldn't have crossed unless we've been on the board. So it's been really fun to get to know her. And I haven't heard this one, but she's also known as Magic Mary.
Oh.
So she's just like, yeah, I'll help. I'll do it. I'll get it done. So I really appreciate all the hard work, and you've made it easy to do a tough job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've become friends.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all
I
friends.
think
It has been, we couldn't have been, I don't think, luckier than to have a board like this where I feel like we really got good work done. So thank you. Okay, move on. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say it's
Oh.
we came on the board together, so
Yes,
it's
we
really
did.
good to figure things out together and kind of bounce things off one another. And, I look forward to our continue to.
Thank you. And I am too. Yes, I am going to continue with the anti-bias committee and the equity work because it's just so important.
She's
So,
Magic Mary.
because it matters.
Okay, moving on, number 6, communication. Anyone received any communication they wanted to report out?
I received a phone call from the Press Democrat, and I
Oh, okay.
shared that with Scott. He's supposed to be our spokesperson, so I did not return the phone call.
I received the same phone call, and I just emailed back saying that was board policy and protocol that when media contacts the district, it's either the superintendent or president as our spokesman. And I also had a couple of people had questions about the Blue Door, so that's maybe needs to be, I don't know, people had concerns about it, questions. And then there was support for SRO. This is supermarket stuff. And then I'm glad that Linda came tonight to talk, but also I had a parent that I was surprised I saw on social media wanted Parent Square by text, and there's so many options and preferences. So I don't know where that person should go, if they should go to the site or they should call the district office, but I was still shocked that they didn't know that you could choose, how you want to receive those messages. So that's
It's all in the settings for,
right. But how do they learn that? Like, where do they
Right.
go to get that
if they go to
information?
the district office.
District office. Okay. So I'll pass it on.
Any other communication? So I did also receive a call from Mary. I talked to Joe before calling her back, and we decided I'd call back and chat with her a little bit. She's working on an article about school safety and the incident and moving forward. So I did that. I also got some feedback on the school resource officer program, and also received concerns about racial bias in the district from a parent, and encouraging them to reach out to the board when they have time. So we'll hear that at some point. Anything else? Okay. Moving on to public comment. I'm just going to read the disclaimer here, disclosure real quick. Individuals may address the board on agenda and non-agenda items during public comment and or at the time they are under consideration by completing the speaker form provided on the table of the entrance and submitting to Renee Holz, Administrative Assistant. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Speakers will be chosen in random order. The timer will be set for 3 minutes. If you do not complete your comment when the timer rings, you may leave a written comment from the board's information. Each person may only speak once per agenda topic and is required to address the board from the podium. A total of 20 minutes of public comment per topic will be allowed. In exceptional circumstances, the board may consider adjusting the amount of time allowed for public comment. Public comment cannot be acted upon or discussed by the board in accordance with the Brown Act. The board may request staff to respond orally at the meeting or at a future time. If you require translation service, please contact Renee Holes at the district office 72 hours in advance by phone or email. Regular meetings will be videoed and broadcasted on the FBUSD YouTube channel. Members of the public who wish to address the board may also submit public comments prior to the start of the meeting by emailing boardmeeting@fbusd.us. Staff will make all attempts to share and record any submissions received prior to or during the board meeting. However, depending on timing, late submissions may be provided to the board after the conclusion of the meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes each, which is approximately 390 words. And with that, is there any public comment?
Can I ask, or maybe bring this, listening to that again after our last meeting, I don't know if people that turn in a public comment form are handed this so that they can read it while they're waiting for the meeting, and I just wonder if we can get this information out, because sitting here listening to it when the topic is near and dear to our heart may or may not.
Most of it's on here.
I know, but are they reading that?
I
I'm just
can't
thinking of,
answer that
we're talking about communication, right? Is there other ways that we can make sure that our public, either before, because that talks about translation, and I know that stuff goes out, maybe we should at another time brainstorm better ways to get that information so that we don't have a repeat of last meeting, or, people don't know.
We do have public comment on agenda items. Joe, do you want to do the readings first, or should we have our guests speak
I would
first?
say that would be at the board's discretion.
Is there anyone in the room that has public comment? on
Yes.
the agenda item?
We have one person in the room, and then we have some submitted public comment. Okay, so we do have one person, Linda Reese Wall. Am I saying that correctly?
Back again. This is a good topic for me, so I have to write my comments down. Many of you will remember, or I think I need to introduce myself. Sorry. Good evening, Linda Reese Wall. Many of you will remember that I was a member of this school district as an administrator and educator. You may not know that I previously worked in the law enforcement field in a non-sworn position prior to education. I have near 2 decades, gray hair, experience in working with and alongside law enforcement, CPS, social and mental health supports, and other agencies to support our students and families. We have had excellent SROs, district staff, and social workers who truly make a difference in difficult situations. Having been a parent for a former Fort Bragg student and a present bonus adult for a current Fort Bragg student, safety is a strong concern of mine personally and professionally. I believe we understand school safety is paramount and that the SRO is only one component. All of our schools need the safety support our fellow agencies can provide. It would be a detriment for this SRO program connection to be severed, and a huge step backwards for our kids, staff, and school visitors. The SRO program has been successful and can continue to be successful. The school board, our city, our police department, and our community need to hear that there is support for the SRO program in our schools. It can be a positive experience. From that relevant experience I have in independent research, SROs are instrumental in promoting school safety, helping to address root causes of misbehavior, reduce the burden of regular police service calls to the schools, offset the school to prison pipeline, and can improve trust and relationships with students, staff, families, and the public. There is strong correlation to the more positive SRO student interactions, there's positive feelings, and from my experience, this has led to victims reporting, having more confidence in reporting abuse and bullying. SROs have also, SROs have also de-escalated difficult situations, facilitated wonderful family-oriented presentations about safety topics, and have decreased criminal referrals. School lockdowns, immediate safety threats, weapon and drug confiscation are all requiring a quick response, which the SRO can provide. I believe I also come with a unique perspective. None of you have called a school lockdown before. None of you have heard the fear in a staff member's voice when they are on the radio asking, "Oh my God, there's a guy on the campus with a gun." None of you have also taken those phone calls from the public demanding for help and responding and working with those officers afterwards. I guarantee you we used to respond, and they still do, anything that involved with a child or school, you are number one priority. So I believe I hold a very unique perspective and experience. I've applied to participate on the district's Student Safety Committee, and I look forward to participating. However, there are a variety of factors that need to be addressed for school safety. The number one impactful strategy for all students at school is engagement. Student connectedness is limited in our community. There are no special clubs at the middle school. AVID is not a club. Kudos is not a club. And ASB is not a club. They're either in class or after school, and not everyone can participate or have a choice. Students don't always have teachers or administrators to listen or who listen. Bullying by fellow students, distracting class environments, and non-responsive school adults.
I'm sorry, that is your 3
Yep.
minutes.
So I'll respect that, and I will finish up the writing, or my statement in written response and email that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment in the room?
Not that I'm aware of, unless someone else has public comment.
Okay. So, Joe, you have some.
Yes, so I have 3 different emails that were submitted. I'll read them in the order that they were submitted. So from Annie Cudney, dear members of the Fort Bragg Unified School Board, I'm unable to attend the board meeting, but was hoping this could be submitted into public comments. I'm writing as a concerned parent of a student at Fort Bragg High School to express my deep disappointment and concern over the potential decision to remove the school resource officer from our schools. I recently learned that this decision falls onto the board, and I wanted to share my perspective along with some data on the importance of maintaining this program. The presence of the SROs have proven to be highly beneficial in schools across the country. Currently, approximately 51% of schools in the United States have at least one SRO present, according to the National Center for Educational Statistics. SROs not only provide enhanced safety measures, but also act as positive role models, building trust and rapport with students. This relationship can deter risky behavior such as vaping, drug use, and violence, and create a safer, more supportive learning environment. From my own observations, having an SRO has made a noticeable impact on campus culture, fostering a sense of safety and community. Removing this resource could make it more challenging to address these issues effectively and could lead to missed opportunities for intervention and guidance. I strongly believe that keeping an SRO on campus can contribute significantly to our children's safety and overall school environment. I've attached a copy of an incident log from Police Chief Cervenka. These numbers for the length of time we had the officer speak volumes as to how important it is for us to keep this in our schools. Thank you for your time and commitment to our schools. So I won't read the log because it's what Chief Cervenka shared last time as well. So. Second message is from Michelle Anderson. It says, dear board members, I'm in favor of having a school resource officer for all FBUSD campuses. I would like to see the SRO work together with staff and teachers on how to handle the situation and how to provide a safe learning environment on campus for students and staff. My children have expressed how the staff have not been able to handle a situation well, and often the issues are ignored, becoming a big problem later on. Now they worry that the issues will continue and become bigger and bigger without the support of the SRO program. I think some of the campus are already understaffed, so it would be good to have SRO for support when there are serious issues to address if the staff are unavailable to take action on the issue. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Sincerely, Michelle Anderson, mother of students in Dana Gray, FBMS and FBHS. And then I'll circulate, there was an attachment with this one that was petition, thank you, word escaped me. So you can take a look at that as well, so I'll read this is from Bert and Sandy Ariano, and it says, Dear Fort Bragg Unified School District Board of Trustees and Superintendent Aldridge, as parents of 4 children, 2 currently active students within the district, we write this letter to express the support and significant importance of the physical presence of a school safety resource officer on our school campuses. It is sadly true reality and common knowledge that gangs, drugs, and illegal weapon activity, as well as malicious intended personas, exist in our community and are a time-ticking threat to our children. As parents, the simple fact of knowing there is a trained and armed peace officer on our school sites brings a comforting peace of mind and heart, as an assuring feeling that any premeditated criminal intention towards students during school hours be reconsidered. Another meaningful consideration is the physical presence of an SRO would build and establish trusting and pleasant relationship with all students aside from other personal experiences, insecurities, and or opinions. We feel that the friendly approach and security of a school setting be a good location for all students to build that comforting and security. In your important and superior civic role, we urge you to consider what is at the best interest for our precious community's children, our children, and we trust you to make the right decision of keeping an SRO position on our school campuses and prioritize our children's health and safety first. Thank you for your time and service. Bert and Sandy Ariano. And that was all.
There's no other public comment.
Okay, we'll move on to number 8, first one, student rep report.
All right, hi. So at Redwood, lately they have had a great movie night last Friday where they enjoyed Mario Brothers. They're very grateful to our Parents Club. And then they also had a Students Award Assembly on Tuesday, and students were acknowledged for being kind, safe, and responsible. Report card conferences are taking place next week, Tuesday through Friday. And December 6th is morning opening and coffee with the principal. Families and the board are invited to attend. At Dana Gray, they were supposed to have the Ruby Bridges Walk to School today, celebrating the courageous walk to school that Ruby made in 1960. They weren't able to do it last year because they were rained out, and now it is postponed yet again. But aside from that, they have parent-teacher conferences next week, and Tuesday through Friday will all be minimum days. And that's about it, besides for kids getting ready for the fall break at Dana Gray. And then at the middle school, November 15th, they have a DC trip movie night fundraiser for the very exciting DC trip that the 8th graders get to go on. And then November 25th through the 29th will be the Thanksgiving break. Basketball is also underway, and their first home game will be December 4th. As for the high school, fall sports have come to an end, with everyone having a really great season, with a special shout out to the girls volleyball team for making it to the championship game in the NCS playoff. Winter sports are also starting quickly. Basketball is already going to some games. College deadlines are also quickly approaching, so very exciting, but there's also a financial aid night December 5th for all seniors and their parents. Aside from that, there is the upcoming Thanksgiving break from November 25th to the 29th, and the annual turkey trot will be held on the 28th, and they welcome all volunteers as well as participants. I didn't hear from Noyo, but it seems like all is going well from what I do know. Yeah.
Thank you. 8.2, the FUSD student visit to Sister City Tucci.
No, she's got to go up there. can move the microphone if you guys need to, depending on how you feel.
Yeah, okay. Hi, thanks for your time. This is our presentation that we put together. There are 10 of us, but only some of us were able to make it tonight. Sorry about that. And if you could go to the next slide. All right, here's a short introduction about our trip. This exchange was one-of-a-kind gift to all of us. Going to another country for 10 days was the best experience we could ever ask for. This presentation will go over our entire trip with broad details, as well as small comments about the people, the culture, the city itself, the festival, Tokyo, and our general takeaways. It was a great trip, and we're very excited to talk about it.
Hi, my name is Francisca Toscano. I'm in 10th grade. So I'm going to be talking about our homestay life. Staying in another family's home was a very immersive way to experience another culture. Some of the best takeaways were adapting to our surroundings because we had to live with another family from another culture. There was a lot of things that were done differently and just, yeah. So we had to adapt to our surroundings. This included things like things that they normally do, like changing out of their shoes and into slippers when entering the home. Being open and trying new things. For me, dinner was one of the most memorable parts of staying with another family. We got to try food from different cultures, so we really had to keep an open mind to the food we were given. For example, one of the things I got to try was raw egg. I survived. It didn't really taste like anything, but it was definitely a new experience. Learning to be very patient. So due to the language barrier, it was kind of hard to communicate, but being patient through that really helps. How living in Japan is in general, so it was generally just a very different thing than it is to live here. And learning how to be a part of a Japanese family, just got to learn how the dynamic is within the families. And it was definitely a really good experience. It was way better than it would have been if we had just stayed in a hotel. And so yeah, I'm really grateful that we got to do that.
All right, hi, I'll introduce myself this time. My name's Kristen, I'm a senior. The next few slides are gonna go over a few things that we just learned from the experience as a whole. Some things we learned were Otsuchi and similar cities, just how they kind of work and how different and similar it is to here compared to Fort Bragg. We also learned about the Great East Japan Earthquake of 2011 and how that affected their city. And we learned about some of the school systems and a lot of other stuff. Next slide. Thank you. Okay. The specific thing that I learned a lot about was, like I said, the Great East Japan Earthquake of 2011 and the following tsunami and fires that occurred. Through this earthquake and the tsunami, over half of their city was destroyed. There was floods super high. And since all the gas tanks and everything started spreading everywhere, that caused a huge fire as well. So the city was broken apart by an earthquake, it was flooded, and then it was burned. It was a whole thing. And we learned to be very sensitive about the topic, because for me, I didn't know how to fully approach such a big disaster, how to interact with these people who went through that. But it was really interesting to learn about it and learn how to learn their personal experiences with it as well. Something that I thought was really interesting, this building in the bottom left corner on my slide is now the city hall, but it was an elementary school. The flood went up to the 4th floor, I think, and wiped everything out, but they got to rebuild it. They transformed it into the city hall, and now there are people working there as if nothing ever happened. But all the memories are still there. They have a bunch of memorials everywhere about it. It was really interesting.
Hello, my name is Caden Ferris. I'm a junior. Some things that we learned from being immersed in a culture, it was a huge difference, a lot of new traditions. It was a whole new world compared to America. Different forms of communication was huge. One word went a long way because their understanding of English was kind of there. So a lot of hand gestures and everything went quite far. Respect and etiquette was really important. like for example, not talking while in public transportation. Their food and cooking was wildly different from us, but it's kind of similar to Fort Bragg. They had salmon was a big part of their thing, a lot of seafood. We learned a lot about their history, and the school system was slightly different, but there was a lot of differences and similarities from America and Japan. Our school experiences was great. Some differences that I noticed while I was there, there was more emphasis on respect and attentiveness towards like your teachers and your superiors. It was really emphasized that you need to respect them. And students were expected to do a lot. They would like clean the floors, they would serve lunches, they were the staff for like lunch and everything, stuff like that. So it was really student run and more independent than we were. They had a lack of like trash and litter. Everything was very clean. You know, I never saw a janitor while I was there. It was very clean. And then the quality of food was a lot better than it was served here. There was a lot more emphasis on the quality of the cooking. And then a lot of activities we did. Archery was really cool. We got to wear their traditional outfits, as well as we did calligraphy, which is the art of creating Japanese characters, and it was a really great experience.
Hi, I'm Sid Lally, and I'm in 12th grade, and I'll be talking about the relationship between Otsuchi and Fort Bragg students. You meet so many people, and there's a lot of backgrounds from you, and you form a lot of friendships, and like Kaden said, regardless of the language barrier, you still form good bonds with them, and all the people in Otsuchi are very friendly and welcoming, and they really pay attention to the small things. Like my family, I had mentioned I like Spider-Man, and every single night they put the movie Spider-Man for dinner, and they would translate it for English. The next slide. And regardless of the language barrier, like Kaden said, one word could go a long way. And during the school, I would say like thank you in Japan, and they would freak out because I knew how to say thank you. And simple actions like gestures and face expressions made them understand you a lot. And yeah, thank you.
Well, I was not prepared for this one, but I will read it. Well, they skipped that other one. Now it is mine. So my name is Lillian Bailey, and I am currently a senior. And I, along with all of these very lucky students, got to go on this trip where it taught us a lot of personal change and growth, which is really important, especially for us seniors, or really any high school student who's getting ready to go out into the world on their own. So to start, it helped with us becoming more independent and outgoing. I mean, we were on this trip without our parents, and for some, this is the first trip where you weren't with your parents. And so that's a really great experience that I think everyone should try as a young person. And then also it taught us the importance of perseverance and having a good attitude. Your attitude was everything. What you were putting into your experience is what you're going to get out of it. And I think we all really learned that and how important that is in every aspect of life, not just on a trip like this. And then it also taught us how critical it is to be prepared for everything. We were not prepared for how rainy it was going to be, so very many of us did not have a lot of sweatshirts, and so now going forward, I think we are all better prepared in future trips as well as just life to be prepared for anything.
We were lucky enough to come during the Otsuchi Festival, which is something they put on once a year. The significance is they go around and they carry this shrine that is said to have God inside of it. And so we got to see some of the dances, such as the tiger and the lion dance. The Shishiodori was the main dance that I got to see. It was a really cool experience. It's something that I've never seen, unlike anything in America. So it was one of the most valuable things I got out of this trip. It was something that kind of showed you that Japan isn't one thing. There was a lot of differences, especially Otsuchi, very special place with a lot of its own culture. And it shows you that even though their town did get wiped by the tsunami, their community is very strong, and they all seem to care about each other. They all had a great time, and it was a really lucky experience that we got to go during that time.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Inez and I'm a junior. Our experience on trying new things. Coming to a new country and trying things you've never done or eaten before was a big fulfillment that made the trip 10 times more worth it. Food was one of the biggest overcomes for both of us since the Japanese palate is different, but we pulled through and tried many things. Being open and communicative was very helpful for staying in a home with people you've never met before.
All right, thank you so much for listening. That's a picture of all of us in the bottom left at our Jamata party, which means like going away. So that was honestly my favorite part of the whole trip, just getting to see everyone for one last time. Yeah, thank you.
So, before students from there come here too. Have they been here already, or are they coming?
They came in
They
March.
came in
March.
March.
And then they're coming again.
They come in.
Yeah.
A great opportunity and experience. Thanks
It's
for
over
sharing.
2 years, right?
How many days were you there?
How long were you there?
With the time change, it ended up being 8, but we were traveling for 10.
And that was,
Oh, yes, sorry.
Two are chaperones that went with the 10 students and Dante.
And you went to Tokyo as well.
Yeah, I spent my day in Tokyo.
Any other comments, questions? Well, thank you again for coming and sharing. You're welcome to stay if you'd like and listen to the meeting, or part. It's up to you. Feel free to leave or stay. As you wish.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm feeling a little sick, so.
Are you?
She's getting
I
over
called out a work card.
thanks for coming.
Yeah, I know, he left the room.
Next, moving on, number
Windows open behind you,
8.3, general obligation bond fund construction project update.
It's okay.
So Renee, do we have Don on?
Mr. Don on. Yes.
I'm just waiting to see if our
Yes,
construction manager is.
he just popped in. Yep. Okay.
Hi, Don.
I was having an issue earlier with my speaker, and I think I'm still having it.
Can you hear us?
No, let me.
He can't see us or hear us because
There's
it's
a
yellow.
exclamation
Says,
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I don't know if he can hear us.
I don't think
chat with them.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you just fine, Don.
I see Renee. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Well, I'll work on audio.
I hear you guys fine.
Huh. Okay.
Okay. You want me to just carry on?
Yes, Don, if you go ahead and we'll work on the other side of it and see, so.
You can hear us, but the microphone on the image says you can't for some, so I don't know. I'm working on it. You can go ahead. We can hear you just fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead. It's going to be pretty brief. And interior drywall and ceiling grid has been in place, mechanicals installed, so that's moving along.
So with that, we'll move on to item 8.4, first benchmark report for Redwood Elementary and Dana Gray Elementary Schools.
All right, well, thank you very much. I'll try to be in person next month. It's a lot easier when I'm in person. Anyway, I hope you all have a good night, and I'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay.
Oh, the flashbacks to online learning. I'm Lindy Erickson, the principal at Redwood Elementary, and you received the data report, and I wanted to see if you had any questions about that. Diana?
So I find it fascinating. I liked the one slide that had the 3 years out and each quarter. And it's amazing that each pot of kids, you know, single digit, double digit improvement and right around the same. So is there any?
I'm not
comment
sure
on that?
because those are different groups of kids
Yeah.
each year. We'll continue tracking those trends and see if they pan out and stay
Right.
similar over
Well,
time.
Yeah, and I was just wondering if, I mean, there's positive things in it. Are we doing the same thing well, or are we not doing something that we need to change because those numbers are the same? Like, I don't know, because I don't have information to know like exactly what's changed in each of those years, because, you know, I'm not a teacher. So I just thought it was strange how everything is, it's kind of like on pace.
Very similar, yes.
But I don't know the capacity of a student everywhere. You know, like to know that that's totally what we're expecting, and that's what we're expecting, and that's what we're expecting across the state and county.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, generally speaking, the instruction that kids are getting through iReady is going to improve over time because teachers are becoming more adept with it each time we administer those diagnostic assessments. But I'm also happy to provide data that follows those groups of students over time, and I'm sure Jamie and I can coordinate with the cohorts so that we can look at some of that data as well.
And then one question, and this is more of a technical question, so I don't know who to go to, but I had the same problem trying to log on yesterday. And I hate to bother anyone, and I kept thinking, okay, when I do this, because I've never gotten that email to say, hey, I can't open up something I'm sharing.
Okay.
So I don't know if like Renee doesn't get to see that, just you, or should I call Renee and alert? Because
So-
I assumed when I, checked in yesterday that it was cleared up for the public, because that's like my big, pet peeve is like, if I can't see it, how is the public gonna see it?
Absolutely.
So I thought it was cured. So I thought, well, maybe there was something I should have done differently.
I did see a couple notifications in
Yeah.
my email that you had requested access.
Right.
So I granted you access
Right.
as a viewer,
Okay.
not as an editor. Sorry, Diana.
Yeah, no, I don't want to edit.
Typically, when we share these documents with the district office staff, then steps are taken to share them.
That's
but we're humans. And
Right. Well,
so
I just
there was
wondered,
an
like, what should I
oversight.
have done? Should I have not done that email to you and just called
Oh,
Renee?
it was fine. It was
Yeah,
fine.
just because it still wasn't opened up for the public.
I
No.
called Renee.
That was my fault. I didn't
Okay.
realize when I got both of them that they weren't both opened already.
Okay. Because I just
And
thought if I could have
only
prevented.
checked, no,
Yeah.
it was on me. I checked one of them from Dana Gray, and it just happened to be open already.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
and for whatever reason, I didn't check Lundy's.
Yeah.
And I
It's
put
okay.
them
And if
attached
it does happen, let
I
me know. I'm
didn't
happy
realize
to
until
happy to
Right. Well, I
provide.
figure everyone's busy during the day, and I just thought if I could,
No.
how can I not bug anyone, but
Yeah.
Anytime there's a problem with the
Yeah.
agenda or any of the attachments,
Just
you
call
should
you.
call me
Okay.
at that point.
yeah, because
And if I
'cause
do
that's my
know, if I
oversight.
do receive a request like that, I'll let you know right away, Renee, so that if there is
I just thought that
a
it was
wider
cured,
issue.
and so yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Other questions?
So this is the first time I've seen the information in this format. Can you just, like, are there any concerns you have with the numbers or any thoughts or highlights you want to?
I think we've got a lot of room for growth, for sure. I really appreciated what the first grade team offered. They provided the percentage of students working at or above grade level, but also they gave the percentage of students with a partial understanding. And I wanted to hear from you, as I was compiling that data from the three teams, I wondered if that would be helpful information for you moving forward from all of the teams, because I would love to make that available to you. It helped me understand, because that partial understanding isn't nothing. So having a grasp on, how many of our students are close to the mark, I think in some cases that percentage only for the at or above is giving some misleading information. So I appreciated what they did there.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, I'll go ahead and ask all the teams to provide that same info.
Because that lets them celebrate too. It's not just
Exactly.
looking at the negative, but.
Exactly, yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm a big proponent of the cohort, looking at, so I would
Okay.
love if we are moving towards that, just because I
Wonderful.
always think that as long as students are moving forward, that is success. It's not
Progress.
just the one snapshot for that day, but if,
Right.
our students are improving, whether they start at pre-K and they get to, so
Okay.
that's, I would love to see that if that's not
Wonderful.
too much work.
I will make that happen. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jamie Alexander. I'm the principal at Dana Gray. Ooh, we'll put this lower when you get up here, Rhea. Again, we have the same presentation, the way we organize together. So do you have any questions for me about Dana Gray's data? We definitely have areas of growth. What was interesting to me, I think, the most is that the fourth grade represented here, their ELA scores, last year they were the first group in third grade to have UFLI, the University of Florida Literacy Institute curriculum grade, the whole grade level taught it. And so when I was looking through what the teachers were providing was what you're talking about is how did that great phonics situation, how did that affect their beginning of year, fourth year scores? Because the ones that we provided in the focus standards that the teachers decided to report on aren't really reading standards, they're more of the ELA standards. So that's what I was interested in talking to them about at our next PLC, because, the third grade got some pretty intensive instruction last year. And similarly, this year, the third grade is doing UFly for their reading curriculum. Did you have any questions for me?
So I'm not quite sure how the first summary page reflects what's in the others. Like when I look at the very last slide for fifth grade math, they're all 0 percentages.
So those are two different things. The first one here, this is the iReady diagnostic data, whereas the other pages are the focus standards that each grade level decided to focus on in the Kelly Smith, PD situation. So those are two, the kind of apples and oranges.
Yeah. But they're both nice to see.
Good fruit.
Yeah. Fiber.
And
Lots
all of
fiber.
those are typically fifth grade standards that are addressed throughout the year. So you should, that's the hope, is you'll see the growth as students.
Right.
And there
They're
always is
building.
growth.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and that's I know
Students
that a
learning.
couple of those are, when you have 0% of the kids that are performing at or above grade level, I think a couple of those, especially math standards, haven't even been addressed yet this early in the year. So we definitely have, and what I like about this format is that you'll see the same standards and the growth over the course of the year. And we'll definitely get together and do some comparative data for you as well. And compare
that, I
apples to
hope,
apples.
The public listens to the conversation too, because we've been fighting that misnomer for years that, you guys are, or the students are getting assessed on the end of the year now.
Right.
And so.
Right. It's one of the conversations at also at parent conferences that this isn't a representative, it's how they're doing so far toward that grade level standard. And we don't expect them to, be doing end of fourth grade work at the beginning of fourth grade.
Well, another big factor that isn't shown here is the attendance. And I know it's improving, but if you don't show up, it's pretty hard to have those hours of learning, and that's a huge element here.
Well, and we've been having kind of fun with attendance, if that's a thing. Now it's on our marquee. It changes every week. And then we just put a new graphic on the front page of the website to show from week to week. And you can definitely still see when everyone got sick. So we're hoping if it's more, that parents can see, what our goal is, and week to week what the attendance is, that they'll get more excited. And the kids are way more into it now that there's an award associated with good attendance. So, any other questions? Groovy.
Is the walk happening tomorrow?
Yes, the walk is happening. Everyone needs to wear purple. And I'll be at the Star Center at 7:30. Parents can start dropping off there around that time. And buses, one of the things is we're the only school doing it, so the buses are actually going to drop kids off at the Star Center to increase our numbers. And one reminder from Monique at the Star Center was, if parents would like to join, please don't park in the Star Center parking lot, but park on the street. And we're going to start walking over at about 8:05. It'll be fun.
Parking is probably not an issue tomorrow morning.
Oh.
They don't open till later.
Then there we go. Then we're all okay. Groovy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 5, superintendent report.
And so we're going to start with our Dana Gray Elementary update, because we forgot to incorporate that into.
Yes. I'd like to introduce the beautiful and amazing Miss Rhea Potter.
Hello, my name is Rhea Potter, and I'm a 5th grader at Dana Gray. I would like to share with you a few highlights from my school. This year, students at Dana Gray have 4 different clubs: drama club, choir, drumline, and chess that they can join. The martial arts program is happening again this year, so kids from all 3 grades get to go once a week. The Pod Squad leaders are working with 3rd graders in their classrooms as well as teaching games on the playground. They also give students new to Dana Gray tours of the school on the first day of school.
When I was in 3rd grade, I was uncomfortable around 5th graders. So I want to set an example for the 3rd graders so that they don't have to be afraid. That's why I chose to be a part of the Pod Squad. The 3rd graders went to Jug Handle, 5th graders to Earthspoke Farm, and 4th graders to Hendy Woods for the first time, so field trips are up and running. The 5th graders put in artwork for a yearbook cover contest, the winner winning a yearbook. Yay! We have lots of dress-up days and assemblies for the whole school. The newest highlight for kids is having more places to spend lunch recess. They can go into the art room, music rooms, this is when drumline and chorus clubs happen, or into the library for some quiet reading. Kids can also go into the chill village at lunch if they need some time away from the hustle and bustle of the playground. Our last highlight is that we had some teachers from Laytonville who come to Dana Gray to see the great things that our teachers are doing, and they were very impressed. Thank you for letting me share all the exciting things going on at Dana Gray. Have a good evening.
Great update. Thank you.
Yes.
so
I know, we
much.
love that.
Awesome.
We have an opening for you in a couple years.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
That's awesome.
Alright. Thank you. You're welcome to hang out, but don't feel that you have to, because I'm not nearly as energetic at this point. So- Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Great job.
So sweet.
Okay, so on to more mundane things.
Yeah, how do you follow that?
Right? Thanks, Mrs. Alexander. Coming back to our continuing conversation around student safety, I thought I would provide some updates around that. So our activities that we've had within the district, I just wanted to highlight some of our counseling supports that we've had in place. So we have Thrive Counseling that we've worked with Hallie DeVille and her team. And so they have, starting next week, they will have 2 wellness coaches that will support Redwood, Dana Gray, and FBMS. And so the one coach will be split between Redwood and FBMS, and the other will be at Dana Gray for the full time. So they'll be there 30 hours a week with our students, providing the support. If we, Hallie's in conversation with a 3rd person who may be qualified to do this, kind of figure out the qualifications. The state typically, they rolled out the program and then said, oh yeah, we should probably tell you what the qualifications are. So that's kind of where we're playing catch up with this a little bit. This will provide for our students that up to, like say, these employees will be on 30 hours a week on our school sites, and so pretty much daily. And we'll, if we can get the 3rd, then Redwood, Dana Gray, and FBMS will all have someone there who's there the whole time. Not that we're neglecting the high school and Alt-Ed. Alt-Ed said that they feel like things are going well and they've got supports that are in place and they feel really good about what's there. And the high school said the same. So we said, okay, if that's where you are, then we will put those resources in other places. And if you remember, this is from a grant, so it's not costing our district any money. The hope is that we can get these folks qualified so that we can continue billing Medi-Cal for them in the future, and it'll just kind of be a self-sustaining program that can continue as they're opening up some Medi-Cal billing options that didn't exist previously. We also have Daybreak. So there's an agreement in our contracts tonight. It's for Daybreak Health. So they'll provide up to 12 weeks of counseling for our students at middle and high school and families at the elementary level. And they have a commitment to complete intake for students within 48 hours of referral. So the other thing I didn't mention on here is that they do have bilingual therapists that work with them. So all of our families can get the support, hopefully, that they need to work through an acute situation. We're also working out the communication so they can let us know if someone's coming to kind of the end of that 12 weeks and still needs follow-up care, how we're going to get that communicated out and get them connected to community services that exist. So,
Are they statewide or are they?
They are actually nationwide. So they said they have, I think, 70 therapists here in California, but they have
Wow.
200 or 300, nationwide. So we
And
were.
once a family hooks up, they're connected to that person for the whole.
Yes,
up
yeah,
to
they work
12
with the same
weeks.
counselor through
That's
the
great.
duration of the time that they're working, so. And this is coming from our community schools funds, and so we're trying it out for a year and seeing. That contract is about $20,000, which I think is actually a really good deal considering all of our students, if they felt they needed counseling, could go through this process and get connected. So I think it's a pretty strong addition to our portfolio there in supporting kids, in addition to some of the other programs that we're trying to market for, so folks know that they're available through, the state just has them available for kiddos.
And do they
Um,
have, I'm sorry, to interrupt,
no,
but
no
do they have a process for like if a kid's there for 12 weeks and they clearly need more
And that's the part we're
services?
working to define, is building those connections kind of with our counselors, so they know, okay, we're gonna call, maybe we're 8 weeks into this and we realize it's gonna take longer than that time.
Mhm.
They can start making that transition into the care that we have. The nice part is they could then transition into Thrive, and that could be another 12 weeks of support directly on site, and then that gives us another buffer to be able to get connected to our local ongoing clinicians. So.
Right, that's great.
So the Anti-Bias Committee held our first meeting on October 23rd. So we really were looking to set up guidelines, discuss really who else needed to be at the table, because that's a part of every conversation, is to just say who's not represented here and how are we going to get them here. So I've got some follow-up to do before our next meeting. And Renee, did we confirm the December date?
It's December 11.
It is December 11th.
I don't have
okay.
a definite time yet, though. So.
Okay, so we're still working on the time, but our next meeting will be on December 11th, and we'll get that advertised as soon as we have that confirmed. And so if you know of somebody who needs to be at the table and want to share in public the same thing, please let us know, and we will reach out and make that happen. The committee will be an ongoing effort, so this isn't just something that's going to be in place and then off into the ether. We're really trying to, that's why we're taking so much time on the planning side, is to make sure it's got a structure in place that we can continue, for the foreseeable future, into years in the future, where this is just a regular standing committee meeting where we can continue to do this good work. Continuing on student safety, we had our town hall meeting was last week. We had approximately 30 people in attendance. We had our panel that had 5 students, and I forgot to add her on here too, darn it. So we also had Tim Anderson, Captain O'Neill. Tim Anderson's the assistant principal here at FBHS, Captain O'Neill from the police department, Danica Hinman, a parent from Noyo High School, and also Kirsten Cesario, who was a teacher at the middle school, took part in the panel. And then after the panel talk, we had table talks where participants could answer some questions and provide some feedback. So they answered those guiding questions, got written up on poster paper, we typed that in, shared that out with all the participants, shared it with the board, shared it with our leadership team, and it's also attached to the agenda, sent it out also to employees, because I wanted everybody to know what was being said. I mean, it's not, these were not filtered in any way. It was just simply capturing feedback from that meeting so that everybody who couldn't be there could at least see what was being said. So.
So do you, because I was there, but I still don't have a good grasp on if we had elementary school families there, or was it more mainly community members? Or, I mean, I know there was a few middle school
I haven't looked back at the
but I
list in
didn't really
detail.
get a good sense on, how they, what
Representation from the-
exactly. I kind of felt like it was more community.
Yeah,
But,
there was a lot of community that was
which
was
is
present.
great, but I was
so,
wondering, like, how do they find out about it? So, because oftentimes from afar, your questions are different than when you're
for sure.
you're
Yeah,
in-house and kind of know who to ask.
And that's why we would like to have a follow-up meeting in January, and part of what I put back out to everybody who was there was, if there wasn't somebody here that should have been, please make sure they come to the next meeting, and we'll keep growing this out. you know, I think the more heads we have together on these really complex issues, just the better outcomes that we'll have. So thank you for, Linda, for wanting to be a part of the committee. That's not this work, but it's the same, in the same sphere of things. So we would invite you to this as well. So, yeah. Our safety committee met last week on November 7th. We really had a big focus on emergency communications, and I will say our police department is really excited about the opportunities that our current software that we have, like it's got some really great capabilities. We've got the opportunity to, if we were in an emergency situation, our clock up here can actually scroll instructions. So if it were an earthquake and we hit the button that there's an earthquake going on, it can say, you know, drop cover, hold on. That kind of thing can scroll across there in addition to audibles and all sorts of things. We can actually make it to where any internet connected machine, so like the screen, could do the same. So we could do that with everything, laptops, all that throughout the district. So there's no way to miss a notification when it comes up, because that's always, if it's just an audible or if it's just, you know, multiple means is really cool. We can also have it immediately post on social media that we're whatever situation that we've called. It can also send to specific devices, like here are the instructions to follow if you're in this part in the emergency response tree. So I mean, it's got amazing capabilities beyond just anyone being able to call a lockdown or whatnot. So
have you ever, during drills, have you ever tested any of this?
we have not, because it hasn't really been built out on the software side yet. So what I want to do is our IT are really taxed where they are. So I'd like to reach out to the company. So I've got Ari is looking into that, to just bring somebody in and say, what will it cost to do the setup so this works the way we need it to work? You know your product, just do it, and then we can do the maintenance on it from there. So that's sort of where we are with that, is to really do that and hopefully have this ready to fully implement by June, because it's, you know, it's a big task. But I think once we get there, maybe we can do some trial runs on campuses once students are not there, but we can, you know, just see what it looks like whenever it does scroll, the clock and things like that.
So just trying to grasp the role of this committee, because it's in timing. We've got this other committee going on, and people are asking, when's the next meeting? It's like, which one are you talking about? Because there's anti-bias, there's equity, there's this, there's that. Are they going to be looking at any of our documents? Like, for instance, we have the safety plan on our action, or is that's more just for education checkbox? Unfortunately, it's not really.
No,
I just wish it was more valuable for staff and new staff.
Yes.
So I just didn't know if this committee is going to have a lens on some of those documents that we have, and have they, or is that coming?
That's coming. So we wanted to get through, communication seemed to be like the biggest piece that we kind of needed to solve first. So we were really working to address those issues. And then, yes, that's part of the time we'll have with Captain O'Neill. He's already started the analysis on it, but he's like, I don't want to overwhelm this early in the process, and kind of moving forward. So yes, the point of this committee will be to keep revising and coming out with more user-friendly pieces when it comes to an emergency situation. Here's how we can respond.
Minor and big, like just daily, weekly things.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
So is there any on the low-tech side, in case like our fiber optic cable got cut and we had no communication with the outside world or the inside world? Do we have any low-tech
So we have a low-tech, high-tech option. It's kind of a cool thing in that Ari has been doing research. It's about the size of a credit card, can just clip onto a backpack or something like that. It uses actual radio waves, and through repeaters that use like a little solar antenna. He's put one here and one at the middle school, I think. So basically it uses the radio waves. You use your phone to connect to it, and so you can send a text message, or you can send location information. It has GPS in it, that kind of thing. So we could maintain communication within a group. So my hope is that, and the devices are, I think he said, they're about $40 a piece. If we were to buy 100 or more, they go down to like $28 a piece or something. So they're really inexpensive. with the idea that we put all of our admin on a group, and so if we know there's a storm coming or something like that, we could make sure that it's charged, and then, you know, I can say, hey, this is what's going on, even if all communications are out for whatever reason. We have that connection still.
So it really is radio waves and not bandwidth.
Yeah,
fiber
it
optic
has-
stuff, so it's
it's-
totally different, which is old school. Like
Yeah, old.
radio
That's
towers
what I
stuff.
say. It's the low tech, high tech.
Which is cool
Yeah.
because I was thinking, well, like depending on what carrier, because I don't know if the admin have Verizon or US Cellular. Like remember how like fiber optic, like I could use it, but if you
Right.
had
Yeah.
Verizon, you couldn't use it, and
Mhm.
that's totally out of
It takes all
formula.
that out of the equation. So
That's
it,
cool.
it literally, if you're close enough with two devices, they just talk to each other directly, like you know, like your handheld radios would do. But he's got some friends that are in like Willits, and have been able to use the towers up there to communicate down here and stuff. So I mean, it's got a really
good range.
pretty good range to it, and the little device has about a 5-day battery life, so it should last through most things to, and uses pretty standard recharging. So start your car and
Yeah.
plug it in, and it'll.
Gosh, I feel like living here, we should all have one of those.
Well, and that's sort of the outside goal he has outside of FPUSD. His hobby is to try to expand this out so that anybody who wants it can easily
Yeah.
get access and build a group for their own home safety and everything.
Yeah.
So, but super cool load. So thanks for asking that question. It's a really neat solution that's out there that we'll continue to play with and refine and make it work. So.
Thank you. And he did not pay me to ask that.
I did not. This is good timing. All right, and then finally on student safety, we have, I just wanted a little bit of public update about the school resource officer program, because I know we heard a lot of talk about that tonight. So the program had been paused after our last meeting when Chief Cervenka and I met to discuss. We have worked on expectations of this role, have been reviewed with our district leadership, and I'll review those with the FBPD after I've shared those a little bit, and I continue to refine them. So I think I'm almost at a point where I'm ready to share those out. I don't think they're anything that we haven't already talked about, but it's just good that we're all on the same page and understanding how that protocol is going to work as we move through. The MOU for the SRO program was attached to the agenda, just if anyone desired to take a little bit more information. It was on previous agendas, but I just wanted to make sure that it was there. And we've heard feedback on both sides of things, but really the research that some folks have pointed me to about SRO programs not being effective are that they're not effective in isolation with no other supports. And so I think really what I am proud of that we've built here is that we have a supportive system that has counseling supports, and we have the SRO program, and we have other, you know, the social emotional learning that's happening in the classroom. So we're all understanding that this is often issues really have to do with they're not criminal, and we're not trying to criminalize students. We're just trying to make sure that the appropriate supports are in place within the district. So I'm proud of my leadership team and all of my teachers and all of my staff for really making that happen, because without them and without those personal connections, which if you heard me speak, that's really what all this comes back to. When I went to the conference that was talking about bad actors and the things that they'll do, it's really that they lack personal connection. And that's why I keep saying our superpower as a community is we have relationships, and maintaining those relationships is huge. So.
Well, that's what really leapt out at me reading the town hall, what you put in here. The mentorship kept coming up, and that it all comes down to relationships. Kids aren't going to learn. They're not going to feel safe. They're not going to feel seen if they don't have a tie to somebody at school, or many people at school.
Yes.
School culture. Because that was what's interesting is, of course, this day and age you can find data on anything, any side that you know you believe. And what I couldn't tell without, you know, like really digging in, is it doesn't really, each of those articles don't really tell you who that SRO is. Are these the bad SRO data? Is it saying a peace officer SRO, or is it saying an individual that was trained as an SRO? Because I think that could be very different, because I can't believe that an officer's training isn't valuable to be an SRO. you know, or if you just had a security guard that's in that role as an SRO, like the data doesn't really tell you who that person is. So I felt like I didn't have enough information to know what those data on either side meant, because it's just not really defined.
And some of the meta-analysis that I read on the subject really were talking about there's not a distinction in many of the research articles that are out there between a district employed police force versus a
Private,
police department versus private security. Like those things kind of get meshed into
Exactly.
one
So it's not
data
defined.
point that's not really, I'm like, well, those are three different viewpoints on how the response and support
experience,
is.
training, you know, taking one program of SRO for an individual that's, you know, been, a gas station attendant doesn't mean that they're more safe than someone that that comes in with being a peace officer and the training and, you know.
Well, the school police force is a totally different thing. The role of a SRO is
very different.
Hugely different.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's good to have information. Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions on safety topics before I move on to other things?
Is there going to be discussion at some point about the SRO and bringing it back on, and who and what type of person?
Yes, I mean, I will follow up with Chief Cervenka about that conversation. We kind of started, I met with him informally at lunch today, and we had some of those conversations starting, but I will connect with him and move forward.
I know a lot of at least the town hall was like, I don't know, it needs to be an armed, like, it needs to be police personnel, it could be something else.
Yeah, and I was going to share that with him as well and see, get his opinions on that, and we will follow up. So.
And that didn't take the person that was in that position out of those trainings that were scheduled, because I know.
No, I asked him to make sure to continue holding
that spot, yeah.
those spots with things. Yeah. So, and I will reiterate that fact as well. Hopefully, I'll get some time with him next week. So.
Same possibility of just making one remark to the action item on the SRO and board policy?
I don't think it is.
It's not an action, it's a discussion item.
Discussion.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's no action.
But you can public comment
So I just wanted to share our state accountability piece will be coming out. So the California School Dashboard that you've become familiar with, they've kind of kept things a little more what they've done last year to this year. So it's not just changing completely as they have done the last couple of years. So private preview, I'm not sharing any information we didn't already have. It's just this is kind of what will be coming out and will be released on November 21st. So some positives that we had, our student suspension rate decreased by 1%, which was went from 4.5% down to about 3.5%. So that's we're really getting to the point where we can't continue that trend just because they're just
Not enough numbers.
But we're hitting really close to basically what the state average is right now. So we're going to look pretty good in that. Our chronic absenteeism decreased by 10%. Not as much as we had hoped, but it's still that's a very positive move.
Double digit.
Yes. Yeah. And then our career and college readiness indicator has increased by 7.2%. So that's also a very significant increase. So those things are looking very good. Our areas of focus are going to be math achievement across the board. I don't think that's a surprise after we discussed the CAS scores there. Our English language arts achievement for English learners, students with disabilities, and our Latino Hispanic student group as well. I didn't add that one on, sorry, that data just came out during board chat actually. So. And then chronic absenteeism for our foster youth. So that was a pretty specific piece, and I said we definitely can focus in on that a little bit and start asking some questions and figuring out how we can get those kiddos more engaged. On general updates, just talking about fiscal side of things. So Jamie and her department are working very hard on our first interim. So we'll get a clear picture of any needed budget cuts for coming fiscal year. We will hear from the LAO's office in early December. I think last year it was December 7th they released their report, so it would be somewhere in that ballpark, outlining the expected fiscal situation for the coming year. LAO is usually pretty good. They're pretty conservative, but they're pretty accurate compared to sometimes you'll see the governor will come out in January with a budget and you're like, where did you get those numbers from? So it's a little closer that way. But currently, the outlook's it's fairly positive. I'm seeing revenues coming in above what expectations were when the budget was built and those sort of things. So that's good in that because the state suspended the Prop 98 guarantee for last year, the state owes schools funds. And so that will come across. I don't know if they will stagger it out like they did with the funds from like the 2011, 2012 and that range where it took them 8 or 9 years to pay that back. I'm hoping it doesn't take quite that long. But I saw the figure somewhere. Have you seen the figure about $4.5 billion, something to that? It was in that ballpark. So I mean that's significant money owed to schools at this point. So we should hear more information about that, but I just want to make sure everybody's aware if that you hear that issue coming up, that's where that's coming from.
Well, and then what about the lawsuit that CSBA filed because they wanted to roll back, they wanted to go back, they had extended taxes and affected that number that they, used to populate our portion, the LCF or the LCFF funding, right?
Yeah.
But then that threshold, they're trying to roll back and make that number different, which isn't in our benefit, it's in the
Right,
state's
and
benefit.
it falls under the same
The
issue.
Constitution, yeah, so it's all part of that. So I imagine
Yep.
that when that's clarified, then it'll be.
Yes, and I think the courts will probably side with schools on that particular thing because Prop
I would
98 is a floor, not a maximum.
Right.
And it was never intended to be a maximum.
Exactly, and the people had voted it in, so it's not like you can just unilaterally decide.
Right.
Yeah.
So more to come in fiscal. Next month is really kind of the start of, as I think of like the budget season for the coming year is really, we start to get some data that really help focus in those pieces.
So I've been asked to ask what the effect would be, if any, if the nation didn't have a Department of Education.
I honestly, I don't know how much it would affect our day-to-day business. It depends more about whether, it would be very intricate to undo some of the funding that's in the laws and those pieces, and that's really the biggest piece that we get from Department of Ed. I think issues that disappoint me if that were to go away is it's a lot of protections for our students come through the Federal Department of Ed, so that's like the Office of Civil Rights when there's a concern there, or special education issues at a federal level, the OSEP there. Those pieces that are functioning in a really important role of kind of monitoring those pieces, that's the part I worry about going away and the protections that we have for our students around that. The reality of that, I think, is really complex and would take a really, quite a few acts of Congress to, in a literal sense, to undo or change that in any way, because it is such a huge part of just the structure and the laws that are in place. So.
Right, because the resources maybe they could be reduced, but the laws are still there. But then there's people that have to implement those laws. Those are the people that they're wanting to be, gone away. But that's kind of what I heard on the radio. What you rolled out there.
Yes. Yeah.
All the protections.
Yeah,
for
all the
kids.
protections.
Because it's not that big, I mean, what is it, 7% of our budget or something?
Yeah,
It's not a huge amount.
Yeah, it's
Most of our money comes from the state.
Yeah, it's just those protections. Isn't like Title IX, all those things are.
Title monies.
State gets a lot of money from the.
But exactly, that's the part that's like, okay, but
They
then
get their money.
they don't tell us how to use the money, the feds, but the
Right.
feds feed the state, and then the state gives us an allocation, so it's really on our state to keep us fully funded.
Yeah.
Generally, and then if you look at California is actually one of the contributing states as opposed to the ones that take away within the grand scheme of things. So I don't know.
Tell
Yeah.
us to be one of the.
Don't have my crystal ball on politics around that particular.
It's a slow-moving
Yeah.
thing.
And speaking about facilities, just a couple of updates that Don didn't necessarily mention tonight. We're awaiting for our approval for our 2 classroom projects, so the Dana Gray and middle school. Hopefully we'll hear about that, so as the weather turns kind of gross, they have some projects to continue there. So hopefully we'll have an update on that for you next month. And then our plans for Alt Ed are being revised. We hope to get them submitted to DSA soon. The goal was by the end of December so that they could be considered, give feedback on, and then hopefully we can be shovel ready by the time we're finished at Redwood. They can literally just move crews over.
And are we gonna, since I know there's a lot of changes because of the budget, are we gonna see that be in December?
That's what I hope. Yeah, I'm waiting to get a final set of plans to share with you.
The actual visual,
Yes.
that's on the agenda for the changes.
Yes,
change
yeah,
orders for
so you
that.
can see, the idea is basically we took off the equivalent of about a building's worth of square footage, and that seemed to get our budget back in place. And then basically they're refiguring the plan so that we could, in the future, add a building in if we were to say, through the Prop 2 that just passed, if we get an influx of money, then we could add that in. It would be a separate project, but at least the space is there. And kind of future-proof it that way that we can expand if that opportunity presents itself. So.
And are you still considering a modular situation or no?
When we really looked at it, the savings for modular wasn't significant enough to really warrant everybody's like, no, your stick-built is still gonna last longer and you're gonna have fewer issues with it. Okay. Then, and it worked out to, $600,000 or $700,000. It wasn't significant enough to really make or break the budget on that. So we said, let's go this route and then kind of future-proof with some space if we can. So. And then I just wanted to provide an update on professional development. So our November 1st PD day, just because I know, thank you to parents who dealt with the fallout that is the day after Halloween there. On November 1st, we had 94 teachers, 3 classified staff, 4 assets or KUDO staff, and 4 Three Rivers Charter School staff attend. And those are folks that registered. It could be that we had a few more than that. We sent out registration a lot, but sometimes it still is hard to get everybody in. Our topics included instruction through an equity lens, student supports, instructional strategies, student safety, and all the feedback that I've gotten has been pretty positive about the event, and folks felt very engaged by the day. So I think it was quite a successful day. So thank you to parents for supporting our professional development efforts by having your kiddos at home that day. So.
I didn't realize that was such a widespread thing this day after Halloween. But I saw a lot
I think
of
it's
advertising
become
about it.
more widespread in recent years. It wasn't a thing when I first came to California, and I've seen it kind of grow over the last 15, 16 years. So.
And a lot of people do half day on Halloween too at school, because that day is kind of zippy for everyone.
Yeah.
How many teachers are there total?
We have 113, I think, 113 or 114.
So do they have to be excused from not attending this day?
Yes, there were some people who asked specifically, I need to attend something, because there were some opportunities in other districts, so I know we had a couple that went there. There were some who literally just took the day off, which I'll keep my opinion to myself.
A few people did have to call in sick. We had people who had registered and then contacted us the morning of or the night before.
Yeah.
There were a couple of people who were legitimately ill. And
it is that time of year too.
Yes.
We have.
That's a pretty good, given all the scenarios, and I attended, so
Yes.
not that I'm being that
Shout out to
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't include board members, and I didn't include any of our admin that were there either, because I thought, those are extras. Yeah.
But it was nice to be able to have, I didn't want to take anyone's seat, but there was plenty of space, and I was able to sign up for 2, and it was a nice spread of options, so the safety meeting was really good, and I also did cultural, I don't know what the title was, with Cinnamon and Cynthia's.
Cynthia.
I don't remember the title of their
So I know it was supporting our
last
students
session.
who were LGBTQ+.
the community. So they were both really informative.
Yes. yeah, I was very impressed, all the sessions I got to pop into. I mean, I was presenting at 2 of the sessions, so I didn't get as much time, but everybody was engaged, and it just, I'm happy with the presenters we had this year. You know, you're always a little nervous going into these things. Did I plan the right things for folks to come in? So, but I think we did.
It was
So.
definitely a good
Teachers
variety.
give feedback to let you know
Yes.
how
Mhm.
it goes.
Yeah, we've reviewed the feedback forms. We'll go back over them for, you know, those details we need to go ahead and put into notes for next year if there's, you know.
Always want more food.
Yeah, I was gonna say food is always a comment, so we'll keep working
They were
on that.
looking for sugar after lunch.
Yeah.
I thought it was great that I was there in the morning and that there wasn't a bunch of wasted food. I mean, you guys did
No,
great on the.
no, that kinda hit- we hit the right-
Yeah, it was nice to
And,
not see the plates of food.
The little
left.
bit of, the few leftover sandwiches I was able to take, the Rotary did a work crew over at Redwood on our garden kitchen there. So they replaced some of the siding and primed it and painted it. So I was able to take sandwiches over to them and some waters and that sort of thing the next day as they were working. And then we worked this last Saturday with 10 students who are in Interact and got it all painted. So if you go by it, it looks like a brand new building. So it's in good shape there. And then
the little bags you guys had for them were quite the hits, because I heard as soon as you said about the raffle tickets, everyone's like, what?
raffle tickets.
That was, yeah, people seemed to be very happy.
Good anticipatory sets.
Yes.
They like that kind of stuff.
Yep. And then finally, not finally, but talking about academics, we did hear parent-teacher conferences happen yesterday at FBMS. I got to participate as a parent, but also get to talk to some of the staff that were there. Very well attended. Middle school was brilliant in offering pizza, so folks, if they're missing dinner, they had cheese or pepperoni there for them. And then we have our conferences at Dana Gray and Redwood next week. So our bilingual family liaisons are very busy because they are in high demand, and we've also worked with some of our additional classified staff who are have passed the bilingual certification to support. So we're paying them to kind of come in and offer that additional support, so parents can all get the support they need in those situations. And then finally, gosh, it's not pictured up on the screen. I mentioned earlier the Alt-Ed, one of our students worked with Good Life Graphics to, there we go, create this postcard. So you may have received it if you have a business in town. I think it was mainly targeted that way. But just advertising kind of what's going on with NoYo as far as our intern program, and some information about how to reach out if they would like. I was very pleasantly surprised when it came in the mail on Tuesday. I was like, I mean, somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm like, someone mentioned this to me, but it didn't ring a bell until I had it in my hand, and I called Gary. I said, tell me more about this. So we're pretty proud to see that come out. And when I was at Rotary today and mentioned this, folks were shaking their heads saying, yeah, we saw that come across. And other people were like, oh, we're going to go back and look through our mail because we didn't see that come across.
That wasn't that Good Morning Graphics, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I
The one on
misspeak? I'm
Franklin.
sorry.
You said Good Life.
I did say Good Life. Sorry.
That's the
bakery.
bakery.
Yeah, that's the
Oh.
bakery in Linda, but.
I gotcha.
Me too.
Okay.
Anyway, just wanted to, shout out because she's so supportive of our
Yes.
kids.
Yeah, and really help with this to do, all the typesetting and all the stuff, and have the student really move through. So, pretty impressed with that, and it was a nice surprise on Tuesday, and that came in the mail. So,
Way to go.
Yeah. All right, and that concludes my report. Sorry, it was a little longer than.
So we kind of mentioned, or you mentioned it, but board chat, I was logged in, but I couldn't participate. So
yes.
we forgot to mention that in
Oh, that's true.
communication.
Yeah, we had.
Was there any talk that was?
Let's see, we
just
had.
like one sentence.
Yes, we had someone come on that works with KZYX and was just talking about some different opportunities that we could have through some things they were aware of. And then we had one of our teachers come on and discuss a little bit about some of our, the sub situation. So bring some information back to you on that as well, and see what we can do there. So.
Yeah, we also talk about the cost of renting Cotton Auditorium and the cost of the lighting.
Oh, yes, thank you. We talked about a lot with that one person.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, exciting. I'm glad
I
you
know.
came.
I don't know. It was like I
Yeah.
could see the names, but I couldn't participate. I was stuck at work, so. I was bummed, but I was glad that there was some engagement
Yeah.
for the full 30 minutes.
Yes.
Alright, moving on to item 9, approval agenda consent items. Yes.
All right, the warrants, and I don't know the dates because I have the agenda printed here, but the warrants, the minutes, the personnel reports, the employee conference workshop attendance requests, and the contracts.
Okay, is there any items anyone would like to pull?
So the October 17th and the 24th minutes, there isn't any action items that are populated with motions. So those we'll just have to pull. They're up there, but they're not. It's either the wrong ones got posted or like the 4th page. If you look, there's no motions.
I didn't see that.
Or adjournment. So it just looks like Renee got interrupted. Or that they're just
Joe
text.
and I looked at this.
And that's
when
what you
mentioned about the
emailed
adjournment.
back, and I'm like, oh well.
And I think I'm looking at it logged out, and I don't see the minutes posted.
Well,
So-
they're there, but they're just not. They're not maybe the right ones
Populated.
you wanted. Like you uploaded the wrong.
No, there's no way to, it doesn't
do that.
It doesn't do
No,
that.
so
So I don't know how why.
I don't know what happened there, and I was logged in at the time, so I know that that's
Because I'm logged
completely
in. Well,
what.
I logged in and I looked and was like, oh crap.
Yeah, because I can't even see the minutes now
Oh, that's
on
because I have them, but they're just not.
just
those two are
going
not.
through the not logged in view. So I would agree that
Gotcha. So those will be pulled, but otherwise, I'd make a motion to approve.
So the 2 October meetings?
There's actually 3, but just the
just the 2.
October 17th and 24th, the last 2 of October. Pull those, and we'll have to put them back up for next month so we can have a complete record.
Anything else?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Yes. Yes.
So we'll bring the minutes of October 17th and 24th back.
December.
Okay, item 10.1, resolution 24-14, authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds election of 2020, Series C. The aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $11 million and approving related documents and actions within the preliminary official statement and bond purchase agreement.
All right, so this resolution is to do the sale of our final bond series for the election that was approved in 2020. We are working with our advisors, and with the timing of the sale of the final series, they have recommended that now is a good time because as the election just rolled around, many bonds were approved. So they said to kind of get ahead of all the sales that are going to be happening, to go ahead and move forward with our sales, so then that way we have our funding that we need as we move into the all-ed project.
Any questions? So has the bond committee met? Do they have to
Yes.
meet? They did.
Yes, we met today and we went over this as well. Yeah.
Any public comment?
There's no public comment.
did you want the handout as well?
I do have a handout because there was, I think, a question on how this sale might affect property taxes. And it's not a clean-cut answer, but I did put together an example of what it would, of what our current tax rates were and kind of what the historical data is as we have sold these bond series, what it's looked like on your property taxes. So there's 2 handouts. One I wanted you to show the rates that we got from our County of Mendocino. Our auditor controller was very nice to help me gather the data as to what our rates have been in the last 5 years. And then I put together an example of, you know, if you have a property with an assessed value of $500,000, what that looks like on your property tax bill for these bonds. So the 24-25 rates have already been set, so those are not going to change even with the sale of this bond. She did mention that even without the sale of the bond, there might be a slight increase in the 25-26. So I The rate there is a total guesstimate. It's not any information that she gave me. It was just, I kind of tried to do a worst case scenario based on what we've seen in the past. So one of the things that we've noticed is when we do sell the bonds in the past, there's a slight spike, if you want to call it, and then it will kind of level out. And then as we will see in the next few years, some of the older bonds that the district has had will start to taper off, which will also help level out these rates as well.
And then in the past, we've refinanced, and that's helped the property owners
Yeah.
too. Because I just
Yes.
want to make sure that they know we appreciate
Yes.
this, because we can't just open up another day and make more money.
Yes.
And our facilities are so important because even though like Alted's 44 kids, we want it to last for 50 years, 100 years. So it's a value that's for our community for a lot of years, we hope. So this is super valuable, and I think it said something like 6 cents per 100. I mean, there is some other calculation, but it's so hard to try to explain it simply, but this is a visual, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, thank you. I lost it. There was, Lindsay, you were
Sorry.
No, you're good.
And we wanted to make sure you had this to take with you this evening, just because we know the questions start to come as soon as anything like this comes on, because folks want to know what's their personal impact. So
On Halloween, we all got our tax bills from thinking they're going to get more money. Like
Right.
they're already paying X amount for.
And they're welcome to call me too if they have
They
additional
will.
questions.
They
I can
will.
help.
Thank you.
Or we could show pictures of all that, and maybe that would sway people.
I had that conversation today. I was just like, have you seen the conditions? It's sorely needed.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on this?
Thank you.
I'll move to approve item 10.1, resolution 2414, authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds, election of 2020 Series C in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $11 million, et cetera.
And I second.
Roll call.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Munoz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
All right, item 10.2, issuance by Fort Bragg Unified School District of its Series C general obligation bonds.
So this goes along with the resolution and then authorizes the actual sale of the bond.
Questions, comments, public comment?
There's no public comment.
And just so the board understands what we're doing on the back end, we had our pre-call today with our advisor. We will meet on Wednesday with the actual S&P for our bond rating. Right now, the expectation is we'll maintain our A+ rating, so that's a very good rating. So we're in good shape there. And then we also have a due diligence call.
Also the same day on next Wednesday.
Yes, so next Wednesday will be a busy day dealing with bond stuff, but that should lay all the groundwork, so then they'll let us know the date that it will actually be sold, and we'll get some more information on that, and try to make sure we get that information out. I know I've had in bond sales before where local banks wanted to make sure that they bought, if they knew the date ahead of time, they would make sure to contribute some that way. Just felt like they were giving back to the community in some way that way. So.
I move to approve the issuance of the Series C general obligation bond.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Munoz?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
And Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, item 10.3, text fee adjustment.
Did you practice that? I'm impressed. Nice to take you
So QKA, where with Alted, where they initially drew up the plans a couple of years ago. Of course, the plans have changed a little bit as we've needed to modify for our budget. And then, of course, building codes get updated pretty much every year. So they're asking for an additional $254,000 to make those changes, so that's about a 20-ish% increase over the initial fee. And yeah, so pretty straightforward.
So I would imagine that the cost of all the material is increased since the time we looked at this in 20 or 21 or.
Actually,
they
it's leveled off a good bit.
I mean, that didn't affect it.
And our construction folks seem to think that as honestly a lot of these projects are starting to dry up, that firms are a little hungrier, so they're going to bid a little more
reasonable,
aggressively.
So we actually may not have to be over budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the hope, and they're working really hard with their subcontractors just to make sure the numbers we get reflect the best prices they can give us here. So.
Yeah, bummer. But there's just no way to predict, how it's all going to shake out.
Right.
So it's just the only way out to go forward with the project.
So it's just mostly code changes that they're needing to make?
Generally, yes. It's the code changes are the big piece of it, just because these were initially drawn up in 22, I think, because it was right before I came on, and so in the spring of that year, and so there's been at least 2 code updates since then.
Wow.
And if we don't get it in before January 1st, there's a 3rd code update that they'll have to write to. So that's why they're really aiming for the end of next month. So.
Yeah, sooner the better.
And
So
the district has paid a lot of the upfront costs already on this contract. So, of course, there's the change order, but the amount that we have to pay left on the contract for this project is about $500,000. So, and that's including this change order. So we've already paid for a lot of the upfront costs in this.
Any public comment?
There is no public comment.
I move to approve the QKA fee adjustment.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Schneider? Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Munoz?
Yes.
And Trustee Makala?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Item 10.4, comprehensive school safety plans.
Okay. So you get to see, this is one of those rare occasions where you get to see all the schools represented, not just Alted as the campus of 3, even though the plans are very similar, but the state requires a separate plan for each CDS code basically that they have. So I was sort of talking it over with Gary saying, lucky you get to write 3 of these. I used to be in that position, as an Alted principal, so I completely understand. So these plans sort of are a mesh between the plans that we had last year that were very cumbersome and just not really usable as a safety plan, unfortunately, and our current system that does a better job of that. We know that these still need work to become more usable, and continuing those conversations, but we really want to get the legally mandated piece taken care of and then work with the safety committee to really start to flesh that out. But we didn't want to get ahead of where the safety committee work was and really start to guess at where that might go. We'd rather wait until that's in place so we can communicate out the complete plans as we move forward with that work.
And I had a couple of questions, but you answered them already. And the only other one, all of them had their site maps. In Redwood doesn't have a map, but I was wondering also maybe they're redrawing it.
Yeah, I think they're probably in the process there, just
So hopefully
because
that's in the works.
everything has moved
Yes.
around.
So it's like, we probably need a new
so
map.
There's a fence
so yeah.
there.
And where's the office?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we'll get some enterprising business students that want to.
Yeah, because I don't know who created the other maps. Like they're all very different.
I'd love to see kind of a standardization, yeah, across.
But I figured it was in the revision.
Yes.
I thought these were much better, much more
That's the old one.
readable. No,
Yeah.
this year's is just readable, they're approachable. I think anybody could read it and understand and get a feel for what's going on.
Yeah, and that's where we were trying to go with it. The ones last year were so cumbersome.
boilerplate.
Oh, yeah.
And it literally, it felt like you were just checking the box off. I mean,
Exactly,
it
yeah.
really,
Well, it had
And
all
when-
of our policies.
yeah,
It
when
was
you have
just a little
hundreds
bit
of pages
cumbersome.
of policy.
Like when you're in an emergency,
Very
you don't
much
really
so.
care about policy in depth. You want
Right.
to know like 1, 2, 3. What am
Right.
I doing?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to that end, another piece that we will eventually have as we get our safety plans in place is to look, we talked about having the little binders in the classrooms that literally are just it's an earthquake. Let me flip to the earthquake tab. So we have the low tech
Right.
all the way to the high tech to support there.
Because they do say that in an emergency, even let's say you're at an Airbnb out of town, you don't even know your address. Like you say, you know, like my husband's
where are
not
you?
breathing, and you're thinking, I can't even think like what town, like what's the address, what's the street? You don't, you know, like just so under an emergency, even though it's a familiar place, you need to have those bullet points because some people don't function.
Right.
So you need to have that basic 1, 2, 3. What am I supposed to do? Because not everyone can. I mean, the smartest, best, staff. Sometimes they just need that focus.
Yeah, and I would also, I kind of have the vision for that it would be bilingual as well. So if any of our students say teacher was incapacitated in a classroom for
Right.
through an emergency, that we have
That's true too.
those
Yeah,
accessible to
that's true.
anybody in the room. So
And I'm gonna assume that as the safety committee develops all this plan a little more, that all the staff will get trained, so they'll have
Yes.
not just drill, I just go back to remembering was us all standing out on the stadium and they're going, are we done? Are we done? And then, oh, we forgot to tell you guys, you can go back to class now.
Yeah.
So I'd hate to see things like that, continue to happen.
yes, yeah, we will use our district-wide days that we can, that we have built into the contract to make sure teachers are there and trained, and then also offer that to all of our classified staff, and then hopefully we can bring our classified staff in the summer too. It's really
Yeah.
hard to have certificated and classified out because of just then who's supporting kids.
Right.
And so we will find ways to do those pieces to make sure everybody gets the training in it, and then our default will be to go back to something on video or something like that, but I don't want that to be the first. It's just sort of, okay, you've missed it every other way, and here's a
Right.
video.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then when you were talking about the list, now that we've got the athletics, to put the coaches on the list with either
Yes.
the classified or the certificated,
Mhm.
because
That's great too.
it's great that
Yeah.
we're getting so prepared.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
might as well
exactly.
catch them on the
Because I was
initial
actually kind
training
of
then.
surprised that wasn't already kind of in place, because same thing. How do you describe where the field is when you're all your
Right.
mind's going,
You're-
like,
Yep.
am I on the north field?
Yeah,
or the
which,
south?
and it was even interesting to me when I read it, that I would have said, where I would have directed them is not where they wanted as
the
the standard,
best,
right?
exactly. So that's so smart.
I mean,
to
I
get
would have
ahead of
gone
it.
here
Are these
versus they
located
want
on
them
the
over
website?
there.
We don't typically put safety plans out necessarily. I mean, it's a part of the public document here, but we don't try to feature those on the website just for,
So quick
That'd be-
access, how do the teachers have access to all this?
so that's what we're hoping with the paper version. We can put that paper version also into like a staff access drive type situation, where they have those quick things. That'll also be what eventually will come up on screens and all that sort of thing, are those sort of bullet points, easy to look at pieces that tell you here are the actions you need to take now. So
I think they used to be in a backpack. They take the backpack.
They
and
still
it's
have
all in
backpacks,
there.
The backpack
Yeah,
is still
and
there.
the backpack had the
A little
checklist.
binder.
But it's got a
It was
lot
a
of stuff in
clipboard
it.
at one time too, and
Yeah.
I've tried to
Listen
find
while you
pictures
do
of
it.
it, but I
Kids,
can't.
okay.
yeah,
There you
and I'd like to see those ones that have literally the tabs that you just go, oh, it's an earthquake.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I had one last question too. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I
Oh.
was agreeing, yes.
The incident command system is at the high school, for instance. It used to be that incident commander would be the principal, but then the vice principal was the alternate, and there was always an alternate for every single thing, and now we have one person under each. So what does that look like if they're absent?
That's a good
Or
question.
hurt,
It's
they're hurt, they don't.
yeah.
Used to, it
Yeah,
used to be that everybody at the high school they were under one of those boxes.
Mhm. And I think that they have that informally. I'm not sure why it didn't make it into the plan.
okay.
But I will double check that with our admin there to make sure.
Yeah.
Because that's a valid point. Someone could easily become incapacitated for some reason.
Right.
Or just be absent that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
There's
usually
usually
a
a chain
Um,
of command.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that they may not even know someone's not there.
Right.
Yeah,
I would have two people there, then no one.
yep, communication person was absent, so,
No communication.
no communication today.
Yeah, great that way too.
Yeah, that's what it looks like they're in flux, I guess.
So do you want to wait till those names are on there to move forward?
I mean, it's a,
It's kind of a
it's
living
kind of a
document.
living document
Yeah,
is what
they
I'm
would
thinking. It's
Revise
not
it.
static, so, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt if we see these come back, maybe towards the end of this school year anyway, just to continue to, show that we're working on that and where.
Because they're officially, right, this is the one that's due in March, but we try to do it at
Yes.
the beginning of the
Yeah.
year, because it seems like that's when you should
Yep.
really approve them anyway.
And my goal would be hopefully either by the end of the year or at the very beginning of the year, having them approved again, so you we're in that cycle again, because that makes sense to me to say.
Have first responders review it, because it does say on the front that there's that option.
Yes.
That the staff, law enforcement, and fire authority has reviewed, but there's no dates on it, so that'll.
And we do
Get
send them
there.
out, it's just sometimes we don't necessarily get the feedback to say, yep, looks great. So our site admin are a little reluctant around that. So that's another function of the safety committee.
Yeah.
That certainly Captain O'Neill can provide that law enforcement side of things, and we can invite someone from the fire department in as well.
Yeah,
So.
That's great.
late reading.
He, this is kind of off topic, but not, one of the things that was that not this November meeting, but the meeting before, is that he did report, and I was very happy to hear, is that, when he's doing these discussions at the sites, that he's, been very impressed, and the staff is pretty prepared.
Good.
They have good they had good questions. That was one of my sessions for PD, and they are paying attention. They know the school, they know the kids, they know, they had good questions.
Good.
So those are
Because when we've had a couple things, and I've watched signing my own child out at Dana Gray several years ago, I was a little nervous as a board member. I'm like, oh, we're sending kids, so it's great to hear that we've tightened a few
Yeah.
things up with
Sounds like it.
when we have emergencies. And
Well, that was another piece with the communication system that we could go to if parents really wanted to, is facial recognition. So literally have an iPad out there that you have the parent look and it matches to the kid, and we say, yep, that's you. So reunification happens in a way that we're literally, because then, because if it's a mass situation, that person standing there may not know that parent, whereas
Right.
many of our office staff have a great relationship.
right,
No.
but not in that situation.
Yeah.
No, and
But
in
you
an
never know who's
emergency,
picking who
you
up,
might
yeah,
not.
that kind of
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, so anyway, an interesting feature that I forgot to mention
Yeah.
when talking about, it's a really robust piece of software, so.
So do we think we're okay with those few signatures and dots and, not the dates for the approval of these and
Right.
missing, or do we want to wait?
'Cause we're
Does it
gonna see
matter
him
if you
again.
wait? If you bring it back with those changes? Since it's not due till March?
No, we're not doing until March, and I think the reality is that the sites will continue to use the plans as written and continue to update them as a living document, so. And that's not necessarily gonna come to you every time they make a small update to it, but,
Right.
they're certainly looking at them and getting feedback from staff, so.
And I think most of them take it to their site council too.
They do, yeah, all
So-
these have been approved through site council, so.
Yeah. So we just, we'll expect to see him again with 2 names.
Sure.
At a minimum.
With rules, yeah.
So does anyone want to make a motion at this point, or are we gonna?
I'll move to approve item 4, comprehensive school safety plans.
And I'll second for the 5 sites.
Is there any public comments, or?
No, there's no public comment.
He asked for roll call.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, Scott. Trustee Munoz?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
And Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
I could tell she was waiting for you, and you, sorry, I didn't hear you. I apologize. We're a team.
Point 5, board policy and administrative regulation updates from CSBA September 2024.
And we reviewed these last month, and they all seem pretty uncontroversial, just normal updates that come with the laws this time of year, so.
So I don't have any questions, because we kind of hashed it out last month.
Public comment? No. Okay,
There's no
entertain a
public
motion.
I move to approve the board policy and ARs for September 2024 quarter.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please. Ooh, look at that.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Munoz,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Makala.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, everyone okay to keep going? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, item 11.1, CSBA recommended board policy 3515-31, school resource officers.
And we put this on here just as this is the sample policy from CSBA around this. And we do not currently have an adopted policy specifically for school resource officers, so this could be an opportunity to adopt or modify to reflect what priorities the board wants to see reflected there.
So I don't think I have a lot, because I haven't been able to sit with the document that you've sent us, and this to kind of see how
Mhm.
those things might mesh, so, I don't have a lot of input right now.
So the scope of work that was presented to us, that's already, is that current, or is that the?
That's current, yeah,
Yeah.
after speaking with our administrators and just also doing research about what kind of national norms are around school resource officers being in effective programs. So.
And does this, and I'm assuming, again, I haven't read it yet, but I'm assuming that it addresses some of the concerns that we had with the September
Yes.
incident, okay.
Yes, absolutely. It clarifies a lot more for our admin when it's the appropriate time to ask for support from a school resource officer versus when it's not. And we talked a lot about that, like, you know, err on the side of these are kiddos and we want to make sure that they're safe, and if it's not at risk of life or limb or something in that situation, we should be handling everything we can as the school administration.
Same.
Because they're kids at school, and then when we need that support from the SRO, it'll have that much more impact when it's in those situations that it really that we kind of outlined in that document.
So the addendum, the attachment A, like kind of addendum, it'll be an addendum to the MOU that will come back to us, I mean, officially, or that's more of an internal?
I think it's more of an internal piece
Yeah.
was how it was
Okay.
meant, just
Yeah.
because I didn't really format it in that
Right.
that
I just-
style, and
yeah.
it takes much of what's in the MOU and just sort of
Spells it
expands.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I do like this. I mean, the first 6 right here on page 1 just spell out what you need to look at before you jump in, so I think that's good.
Yeah, and I've read the MOU pretty closely, and there's a lot of similar language, and it's pretty clear, the boundaries and like the priority of, you know, the school's ed code is first, always first, unless it has to, you know, be, you know, the jurisdiction changes to a law enforcement, so there's clear reasons for that to happen.
Well,
Yeah.
right here, duties.
Yeah.
SROs are duly sworn peace
Yeah.
officers, so.
Right. So I think the language is really.
Yeah, which sounds good, because when, I mean, I spent a lot of time with the MOU for last meeting, and it seems very, like, dry and legal, and,
It's
you
just
know,
very,
it's, right, it's not,
boilerplate.
it doesn't take the human kid
Mhm.
and human adult and
No.
put it in there, so I'll look
Yeah,
forward
the-
to looking at that.
Yeah, the MOU was totally lawyer-driven, you know.
Well, and I think, as with a lot of issues in, whether it's business, education, public office, whatever, it's, you know, you don't know what you don't know till something happens, and that's unfortunately the situation that we're in, is
Mhm.
that, you know, we've had such a positive experience with SRO in the past. I don't think anybody thought that we would be needing to be so
More clear.
right, more procedure, not policy, but more procedure driven, so. But
But then-
hopefully
but-
now this is all positive things that are happening since, and our students are gonna feel safe and supported.
And honestly, we don't have all the information. I mean, none of us were there, so we don't really
Right.
know if that was an extreme situation or an, you know, we don't know. We don't have all the information. So that's the other thing where I felt like that safety plan, I'd like to see, you know, 1, 2, 3, like if a scuffle happens in the PE, you know, room, what do we do? You know, I'm a staff member, you know, or what if I was a board member visiting? What would happen if two kids start, you know, pushing? What do I do, right? You know, like there needs to, like if someone's that's the authority in that room, they need
Well,
to know
and
the
it
first, you know, like what does a staff member do, and you know and it's a
Yeah.
challenging role because you're telling someone to get in, you know, like in combat zone,
No.
but at the same time you have to keep people safe, and you know, what does that look like? And so I just wish that the safety plan, I mean, the education, that's a common, unfortunately, I mean, it happens with kids.
And I think it's funny you bring that up, because I just talked to a staff member that she broke up a fight. I mean, literally got in the middle between these two kids recently. And so but some
How do you-
people
how do you
wouldn't-
navigate that?
Right.
Or they'd be like,
how do you,
no.
and who is
what's-
and who isn't going to actually step in the middle of an altercation. So we could put it in the safety plan that you're supposed to do this, but then the person would
You
not.
react.
Well,
Right.
it's tough because you can't suggest that type of response, but what is the response? Because in reality,
It's
you
all
want to
about
feel support. Like in that moment, you do the best you can. But you know, when a little kid that's in kindergarten has a pencil walking around like this, you know, I mean, what do you do? I mean, not that they're not doing that, but
Or even the whole, I can't think of the word at 8 o'clock at night, when the runners.
Oh, elopement, yes.
Yes, elopement. You know, that to me is, I would want to stop and, you know, get in front, you know, that's my
Right.
personality, but that's not.
yeah, what are the
you
3
do.
steps before, you know,
Mhm.
that 4th step?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm seeing there's missing. Like there's got to be resources like 1, 2, 3, not to say that we're
Right.
telling our teachers to get in the middle of it, but there's got to be, like if we know there's going to be a fight, like what's the 1, 2, 3, what are our roles as, you know, like as a student and the staff, like that's what I'm saying, not like we're going to tell people how to defend.
No, but I think that was a discussion
Yeah.
a year or so ago. You know, what is expected? I mean, staff were starting to say, okay, now what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to try to help students not pummel each other, or am I not? So that's, you know, I know that's been a discussion at the sites, and that's not our role, but
No,
it's
but-
just interesting that in our world now, it's just whether people are going to jump in or whether they're not.
Well,
Not
that's-
even leave the SRO peace officer out of it, just where we are in society, and
That's
even
a good
putting
thing
a
to
Communication.
you know, if I,
Communication.
you know, get in the middle and stop this fight, well, somehow I could be blamed for.
That's a
Well,
good thing
something
for
if
the
some-
safety committee to address too, because I mean, you're looking
We
at
have a lot
people
of
that
things
say,
to the
let's
safety
give,
committee."
let's give teachers guns, and then you have people that go,
Well,
stand
and-
back and don't do anything.
And I'm
and-
even reeling it back even further.
There's the
Like
human
there's school
response.
rules, there's the role of the student, and then there's staff. And at that age, it's not unknown that something's going to happen.
Right.
So there's ways to say, hey, we're gonna have a new club at middle school, and we're all gonna see if you want to go in there and try to diffuse things before they get escalated to that level, or communicate, you know, like the anonymous trip, you know, like to say, hey, I think something's gonna happen. As adults, I think that there's better ways instead of waiting for it to happen and then decide like, how are we gonna, you know, intervene? That's what I'm getting at. Like, there's
sure.
4 steps well before the pushing starts.
Yeah. And we've got staff members who are definitely interested in becoming trainers for the PROACT, which is a system that we've used in special education for a long time to de-escalate and really try to prevent any physical intervention at all. You know, that's really the absolute last step in the situation. So we definitely want to figure out how we can get those folks into. It's a 5-day training, so it's really hard to do during the school year. So, but we talked about looking at some during the summer that they could go to, and then bring that back and train other staff, so we can just have it ongoing. Because part of the issue is when we're relying like on MCOE for that type of training is, well, we're available on Wednesdays, you know, for our staff, but they're not necessarily.
Right.
So, because you could break this into several Wednesdays in a row or something like that to build the skills there. So we're looking at having some of that flexibility in place so that we can do that and have that power of really, oh, okay, we can offer, here's some tips you can do today to help de-escalate, and then here's some things we'll work on through training and connection. So.
Yeah.
So just going back to the policy under duties, I mean, I did hear a lot of community concern or question about if it should be a sworn peace officer or not. And so I don't know where or when that discussion happens. But I don't just want to, ignore that. And then the non-discrimination part of this policy, I think, is really important. That was the other area of concern I heard from a lot of people, that the SRO treated different people differently. What was perceived as color and race. And so I just, I don't want to ignore those two items. So I don't know, again, I don't know where in this process, with your discussion with the chief or with us, or, the community needs to get involved or whatever, but I just wanted to reiterate that.
Absolutely. I know in our investigations of just different things, I haven't necessarily seen any evidence of discrimination. That would have been handled very differently with the chief. I know that my investigation doesn't necessarily affect perception, but that's that we haven't found anything to corroborate any of that. And then I know my personal opinion is I think a peace officer makes sense on a campus more so. I know we had at our last meeting talking about hiring private security. That doesn't instill, I don't feel the same training is in place in that situation, and I don't think that adds the same value to student safety in the same way that an SRO
Totally
would.
different thing. That's what that school in Uvalde, Texas had a security officer, and that's not who I would want protecting my kids.
Well, and I think with my child's experience with the SRO, it's been an education of law and driving and being a responsible driver. And so to me, that wouldn't come from a security, there's, and then there's just, and then the relationship.
Well, asking
it's
those
just-
hard questions,
right.
but you have them at your, right in front of you to ask, those, like, what if I get a traffic, a speeding ticket, he can kind of, they start to build a little bit of a relationship.
Right,
Well,
Ryan's,
that's the point of it.
experience with him has been kind of, watch, he has a very loud, very distinct pickup that is, hello, Officer Red, as we call it. And, he sticks out like a sore thumb. And so Officer Beek has talked to him about, and in a very, hey, you might want to think, right. And so to me, it's been, some positive relationship and whatnot. But to bring up Scott's question, were any of those people that were here at the, we're on November, so October meeting, were they personally invited to come last week, or did anybody reach out to them?
I did not, because I did not necessarily have contact information. I don't know.
I actually, a couple people, I made sure that they knew it was happening.
Okay.
So that I knew.
But we do now have a group of everyone who was there last week to make sure that we continue to
Share it.
invite them and then build that group out as we have more folks coming in.
'Cause
So.
do we have the sign-in sheet from, I'm just wondering because, what was shared to us tonight through
It's
public
different.
comment is very different. What I heard after the meeting was very different than what was here in the room. So I'm just wondering if we could put, I probably not, people aren't comfortable, confronting each other, but I just wonder if.
Make sure they're all invited.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would like to hear, so again, I would like to hear more student voice and not through the lens of an adult.
Right.
So I'm very concerned about some of the things that were shared, but I don't know what the answer is to get those. I don't know if it was that panel. Did we get a good enough? I'm sorry I couldn't be there. And a good enough. That's not anyway. A well enough yes.
Yeah.
Did we have kids of all ethnicities, of all gender
diverse
groups,
group.
of all? Yes, I don't.
group.
And maybe it was a time issue. Maybe it was. I just want to make sure that those issues were specific, or people that had very strong opinions on those specific issues are brought to the.
There was a lot of solutions that were kind of suggested. One I liked was that we do have the Healthy School Survey, and that we could kind of create our own and ask students like our own questions, more concise instead of the same regimen. That
and a
little
very long one.
survey is a little bit like they probably just start going A, B, D, where you could ask some specific questions on the topics that were, and also you could tell, that's why I was thinking there was a lot of community members there, because they asked the question, well, is the SRO in uniform? Like they didn't even know,
Right.
so they really didn't, like from afar, they really didn't have all the information. And so I don't know if that's what was here in that room in October. I don't know.
In regards to what you're saying about the kids, we talked about if the anti-bias group is gonna have that fishbowl with kids being asked, talking about and asked specific questions about how are you feeling? Are you seeing inequities? Are you seeing
And to speak
bias
up,
and so forth?
And to speak up.
But we should have at least two board members there, and you could then share out to the rest of the group. You can have another committee. But
Poor Joe.
Well, and with the follow-up that we would like to do in January from the town hall, I would like we have more time so we can get a more diverse group of kids. I don't know that we necessarily need the adults on the panel as much as we do the kids, so we can hear their
Right.
voice and make sure that.
Because they're there.
Yeah, and reach out, and it'll give some time to also coach maybe some middle school students. I was a little reticent, not understanding quite where the conversation was going to go. Sometimes town halls can, and I didn't want to necessarily expose some of our younger students in that situation. I think they would have been absolutely fine in retrospect, but it just, the nervousness on my part as the administrator is not to reach out and say, let's get some middle schoolers on here as well. So I think that we can definitely have a more rich conversation at our next meeting for that. So.
And can you, since you have time, couldn't you agendize it where you just open it as a meeting but saying we're just here as observers so the whole board can be there?
Absolutely could, if that's the
I mean,
board's. Yeah.
Well, and we had 3 there, and we just all sat at different tables and didn't talk to each other. So, 'cause, so we didn't even have to be agendized because we weren't presenting.
Because
we
we
weren't
talked about that
discussing.
last meeting and we said, no, we can't
We were
do
just
that.
observers because I didn't even. I said I'm not writing anything. Just because it's not my role to be putting these pieces, on the paper.
We absolutely could, or we could just follow that same pattern that we did last time, where literally none of the board members really talked to each other at all.
Right.
They stayed, very visibly separate. So.
Can I ask a clarifying question about the policy?
Yes,
course.
public comment.
No, you're
After reading this policy for the review, please consider or have a discussion that includes BIPs, behavior intervention plans, because our population of students and nationwide, the number one cause for student referrals to SROs is disturbing the peace, disruption, and some of our behavior considerations come into play in that one. And so perhaps as a qualifications of officer, as they're discussing the unique experiences of our diverse populations, include perhaps a BIP, behavior intervention plan review with the administrators, so that our SROs know who's on campus and what the plan is for students with some unique needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on this policy for tonight? Any public comment?
There's no online public comment.
Anything else you'd like to share? Not yet. Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you for staying to listen and participate. Moving on to 11.2, local control and accountability plan process.
All right. So we're still pretty early in the year, but I did want to give just some facts and figures about where we are so far, just on some of the indicators. I didn't fill it. Well, it's not publicly available, so the CCI dashboard indicator. But currently we have 260 students enrolled in CTE, and these were things that we talked about as priorities, kind of the high-level pieces that the board was interested in. So this is not all of our data by any stretch, but it was kind of those notes that I had from when we spoke in, was that May? Or maybe April, I don't know, back in the spring. Then our college and career specialist has had almost 1,100 contacts with students. That obviously includes multiple times of some students, but still that's pretty impressive that we're this far into school and she's already managed to have that number of contacts. Our avid enrollment is at 90 students. That's down a little bit, so I'm a little, got to ask a few more questions about what's going on there. And then, As I alluded to earlier, our CCI indicator is up, but it's not, I can't publicly put what that number is, just that it's up. So we're trending in the right direction there for sure.
Do you have, sorry, back to the Avid, do you know if Trio and whatever the other ones are up? Because that's the same student population and they
you know,
might.
I did not check those, but
I know that's an issue, they're fighting over the, well, and they're fighting over the
master.
same students,
Yeah.
so that's
In scheduling. master
some of the
schedule.
same students, because the other programs don't
Yeah.
take,
Right.
undocumented students.
yes.
Avid? No,
No,
trio.
the other, the
Trio.
trio.
And is it
Avid
Upward
will take
Bound?
everybody.
Is
Yeah.
Upward Bound still? Not up, yeah,
Yeah.
they're still here.
Yeah, we still have Upward Bound. So yeah, I'll get the numbers on those as well. That's why we start early with this process.
I'm
too.
just
So-
wondering, if that
No,
number's up and this
absolutely.
number's down, it might be a
Um,
reason, I don't know.
Yeah, it could, I think part of it's also that our Avid program at the middle school last year maybe wasn't as strong as it could have been, and so our large group of eighth graders maybe didn't, as they moved
Continue
into
that.
ninth grade, didn't necessarily continue. Or ninth grade's also a really tight scheduling year, so it may pick up a little bit as they move into 10th grade, just because they
Yeah.
maybe just didn't have space in
Zero
their schedule.
period.
Yeah. So. Under goal 2, looking at increasing student academic achievement. So our newcomer academy, as we know, we haven't had a qualified teacher for that, so I'm kind of upset that that's the way that played out. I think it really could have had an impact. We're still out there actively recruiting, so we're hoping that we will find someone there. Anchor Academy enrollment still is currently 40 students. And then some of our intervention numbers. So reading intervention at Redwood, we have 30 first graders and 51 second graders. So pretty significant numbers there. And then Dana Gray intervention, we have in reading, I want to explain third grade just a little bit, that we have 49 students in intervention. 17 are receiving kind of that traditional intervention, and then 32 are actually receiving kind of a reverse intervention. They were doing really well on UFly, so those 32 were actually sort of accelerated through UFly because they're hitting those phonics marks a lot faster. So it's kind of a weird, so the rest can focus in on that. It's sort of a tiered approach to support that phonics development with students. And then we've got 7 students in math at Dana Gray who are receiving intervention in 3rd grade, 12 and 12 in 4th grade, and then in 5th grade we have 13 in reading and 7 in math. So you can see, and those are our same intervention teachers are kind of doing both. They're just pulling math as maybe not as frequently as reading, but it certainly is a piece that we need to continue to build as well.
Now, I'm assuming it's because our students, because if you look at that, I would think the math numbers would be higher, but is that because overall more, like, overall our students are doing bad in math, so these are the ones, this sounds horrible, that are doing really, really bad, and then everybody, like, the 90% of the kids are getting kind of this level 1 intervention? Is that, am I making
Like
sense what I'm
foster
asking?
care intervention?
Yes.
Versus the reading, we've got these bigger,
And I think
Spreads.
the,
thank you.
I think the other
Sorry, I'm
piece
not-
is as we have moved from reading and adding math, that it's sort of building that program out and kind of figuring what that structure needs to look at or look like, because reading, we've had a strong reading intervention structure for a long time, so that sort of is an established piece versus
Gotcha.
math as we build it. I'm sure that will change, but I think we're also, at Dana Gray, they've done some different things in math.
The math ninjas.
Math
We hear about
ninjas
them.
and, moving some kiddos around, kind of leveling within the grade levels a little bit more. So we've seen a little more flexibility there that has reduced some of the need for that intensive intervention. These really are going to be our intensive kiddos that are, if the intervention's probably not successful, then we'll look at more intense, like level 3 type interventions, through.
And I almost, sorry, what you're saying there, I'm like, wait, let's hear about that. Like, I feel like that should be this whole, what you just said, like about the
Yes.
leveled reading, you're moving kids around, and
During
the data presentation,
right.
like, I would love to
Understand.
have heard about not.
Because who is
Okay.
doing the math intervention? I mean, is it at each site? I mean, who's that person? Where are they pulling out, or is it happening inside the classroom off to the side? I don't, like, what does that
Some
look
of
like?
those details. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
then,
Well,
no,
I
it's-
was thinking more of just that they've figured out these, and it's obviously
Right.
working. I mean, the numbers are going up,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah, Dana Gray definitely had our strong numbers in math for improvement there.
yeah. So anyway, that's to add to your data points, that when you say, you know, what's working, I would have loved to heard that, you
Yeah.
know,
More of
they're
that.
doing different things. Well, just that,
No, that's good feedback.
I think those are the celebrations we should have, because the staff, that means the staff are,
Well,
the PLC time is working,
Mhm.
and they're coming up with, they're using their own expertise and
Yeah.
they're, I,
but then
it's exciting.
it's attached to this LCAP too. It's like, look at the LCAP and what we're trying to increase the areas. Like on here is, there's a lot of suspensions with, I was so shocked that with kids with disabilities, like what does that look like, and how are we, not that that's part of the academic, but if they're not engaged, then they're academically not gonna be able to be successful. So like looking at those points, we have to increase, that would be nice. It'd be nice to see a correlation between all of this.
I just think celebrating the expertise and congratulating them on not figuring that stuff out, but using the expertise that we have
Seeing
within the
success.
district and using that PLC time, and anyway, I just think that's, I feel like we get so stuck in that,
The
you know,
negative part.
LCAP,
Yeah.
CASP score, I just, and it's always and I just feel like, look at what they are doing, and yes, we are seeing movement. We are not gonna move, you know,
Yeah, shifting from a deficit thinking to an asset thinking.
right, I think that
Yeah.
is,
Well, and
I would
just
love to
even,
include
like Lundy said, seeing the approaching, like, okay, there's
yes.
there's only this many kids that are at or
Right
above,
there.
but look at all the kids that are so
Almost there.
close, and what they're doing to get them there.
And I think
So-
that's one of the limitations with iReady is it
Mhm.
doesn't do as great a job of showing individual student growth in some of those pieces.
Yeah.
There are some other programs that show that as at the heart, but they don't have the
Range.
instructional piece that supports. So it's, you know, it's,
Give and take.
yeah,
Right.
if we had 1,000,000 hours in a day,
right.
then
Because again, I go back to it was during my campaign and all that stuff, is that if we could track, you know, that 75% of the kids went up 3 percentage points or 2, however you want to measure them, but, you know, and so we looked at that and not just this grading every kid on the same assessment, on
Right.
the same, but, because, you know, the
It's not-
blueberries come, I have a blueberry story when I was teaching, and every kid comes, anyway, they need to be treated differently, and we need to not judge us on
Look
all
at
this
them as
stuff, like
individuals
this.
and-
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just, and there's not enough hours in the day to track that, but I think the
But-
teachers are working really hard, and there's really good stuff, and
Yep.
we need to.
It's also not investing too much into, I mean, the CASP is one way of measuring, but it's just one way.
Right.
And it only, a small population of kids are really good at
Yeah.
testing. Everybody else is like,
Right.
Or they can get really good at it by the time they're done, you know, which we don't, after 8th grade, they don't get tested every year, so.
yeah.
So speaking of our local assessments, looking at a different piece, we do have our reading and math, so you can kind of see, and you can zoom in on the slide, and we'll have this uploaded as well. But this is our first diagnostic that was completed. We're kind of in the midst of the second diagnostic, so it's not, we don't have a growth comparison just yet, but you can see that about 21% of our students were mid or above grade level or early on grade level in reading, and about 9% in math. We would expect to see those definitely grow. I think the really concerning factor that I see here is when we look at the percentage of our students that are in the red with the hash marks on it, that we're looking at 3 or more years below. And so, you know, that's a whole different, you're teaching a whole different subject at that point, just because 3 years, when you're thinking about middle school, that's going back to basic arithmetic instead of discussing algebraic principles and things like that. So
This is an iReady?
this is in iReady, yeah. So this is the data directly from there. So so that's definitely the challenges our teachers are facing, is when you look at how there's that spectrum of, you've got all the way to mid to above level kids all the way down to having a significant portion of kiddos who are 3 grade levels below. So I think the other piece that we continue to work on with this is just also getting students to put the most effort into the assessment. And sometimes this first round assessment, they haven't correlated the idea that the work they do here reflects directly in the work they get assigned in iReady for sort of their intervention and support. And then they start to see that and they say, oh, I can do better than that.
Right.
Um,
Well,
and
that's
so,
what I'm wondering about this. This isn't really, so the first assessment, is it like the CASP where it's like, this is what you need to know by the end of the year, but we're testing you now? Or is this more intuitive to like where they're at?
no, this doesn't, this
You know
is,
what I'm
they're a
saying?
third grader, so this is third grade standards or whatnot for the whole year.
End of the year,
Yeah.
third grade standards, the
Yes.
same
So
thing.
we'll see
Very
that
similar.
growth come across
Okay,
here.
so this is kind of
Um,
a, not fair, this first
It's
row.
just the starting point
Yeah.
for,
But doesn't
for
it
kids.
build based on where they are?
Yes.
So if they click
Yeah.
the buttons just to go through, then they're gonna be bored with what there's
Mhm.
actually been assigned to them.
Yeah.
So it's that intuitive in each slide, it'll actually keep advancing, like if they keep getting things right, they'll keep making it harder in that,
Mhm.
in that one test.
Yeah,
So
it's
it is pretty intuitive.
to a
then there's
certain
lessons
degree,
after
but
that, right?
this report is pulling off of how they do
Just a
on
baseline.
baseline grade
Yeah.
level,
Okay.
end of year standards that they're judged against, so.
Yeah, and so statistics would say if someone just totally wasn't into it the first time and had this huge growth, it's because they were paying attention the second time, but we'll never know that.
Right.
So that's the other thing you have to realize, the percentages can be pretty
Skewed.
unconclusive.
Yes.
To know
Yes, and
what's really happening.
it doesn't also show some of the growth that our students are showing across the board. So if they're doing a project-based learning or, you know, the things that they're more engaged in,
Yeah.
that they're gonna show that piece.
Yeah.
I always say the ideal assessment would be if we could have our teachers' grade portfolios that were from, say, another school, and we just do that exchange, keep teachers on for another week. I think teachers would probably be way into it, just because it'd be cool to see what projects kids are doing in other
Oh,
places.
Mm-hmm.
Things, my pie in the sky if I controlled everything.
Right.
But I think that's a more authentic form of assessment for our kids, and,
Well, learning's happening, and that's clear. I mean, back
Yeah.
when I was in elementary school, I didn't test well, so I always ended up, because that was when they rated, like you were in the low group, and then you were in the high group, they had it really, it wasn't diverse.
Yeah.
So I'd always end up at, you know, if it was 0 class, but I, you know, but then I'd be like, what are you doing in here? Because I needed that interaction with people, not, you know, pen and paper.
Mhm.
So I'm sure that's happening still. So you,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not saying kids aren't learning,
right.
No.
and teachers aren't teaching, it's just, that's just one way to judge it.
All right, and looking at our goal around improving school culture, you can see attendance rates there. The attendance rates at Alt-Ed, I would put with a big asterisk next to it. We were having some trouble pulling some of that data, so I don't know how accurate. I mean, I know they can be kind of in the dumps sometimes, but we tend to hang in the 60s there. So when I saw those numbers, I was like, I'm going to put these on here, but I want to go back and look at that a little bit
Yeah.
more, because that, when I've been there, that doesn't feel right compared to the number of students I see on campus. So I need to do a little bit more investigating there, but I think the others are pretty accurate
It's really good.
as to where we are as of, I think Sarah pulled this for me yesterday. So pretty up to date there. Our chronic absenteeism rate is 21.5%, but that is year-to-date based off of missing 10% of the days year-to-date. So, you know, we've been in a little over 60 days, so you think about if they miss 6 days. So an extended illness could contribute to that. If they don't miss any more days through the rest of the year, they won't be chronically absent. It just, that's the snapshot of where they are right now if they've missed 10% or more as of today. Our suspension rate for the year so far is 1.2%, and this is calculated by the number of unique students suspended. So if the same student gets suspended multiple times, that doesn't necessarily contribute to the rate. They only count one time, so it's not, we don't count the same student 10 times if they get,
Duplicated
hopefully we're
suspensions.
doing something else, because suspension's not really all that effective if we're getting it 10 times, but.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I hope that's not happening.
No, it really wasn't. There were a couple of students who had multiple suspensions, and that was about it.
Yeah,
so,
not a norm.
no. And then
And
our,
is the, I'm sorry, is the 3.5 for this many days, or is that?
that was
the
our whole year
Okay.
last year, yeah. So that was the
Final number.
the final number there. So, and then contacts with bilingual family liaisons. We've had 355 family contacts so far this year. So we're about half of where we were from last year, but less than half the days in. So that's pretty impressive. And as we add more of our liaisons on, we have 3 positions that are currently advertised. So those will go public tomorrow. They've been internally advertised. I imagine I've been doing some recruiting, and I think Martha has too. So we'll see some folks applying to those positions and be able to increase that. So we'll have hopefully our full complement of 5. And Martha keeps asking me where are we going to put them. I said, oh, that's a problem. We'll figure it out.
You find the people, we'll find
Right. I'll find the space. Don't worry about it. So, you know, if you come into my office and you see a bunch of family liaisons, you'll know what's going on.
There goes the reception area.
So, as far as next steps and LCAP, just to kind of, you know, I know you're all have been in this long enough that you kind of are used to the processes here. So we'll start in January really with our meetings out with site councils and students and, you know, all our different representative groups. The focus will be LCAP, but it'll also be around strategic planning, trying to get a lot of input for that, because I'd really like to get a draft of a strategic plan to you this year, where you can kind of see, you know, 5 years of direction versus the LCAP kind of being 3 years, and we can, you know, get some more input from the board as well as the 2 pieces they'd like to see reflected there. And then we'll send out our surveys. One of the things that was approved tonight was a contract with a company called Thought Exchange, and they do surveys just kind of completely differently. And it's a really cool thing. So folks can get into the tool, and we ask an open-ended question. They provide a response, and then they rate other people's responses. So they can rate, you know, up to 30 different responses that get cycled through as people go through. And the advantage to this is at the end, on our end, we can see here are folks who felt very differently about this particular issue. Here are the areas they agreed on. And we can break it out by issue that way. So we can really see, oh, you know, everybody rated these ideas 5 stars, super high, and they can see some of the information, but we can see a lot more in the analytics. The other side, on like for school climate survey that we might send out for students, would be if a student's like rating really low on a particular thing, saying, I strongly disagree about this particular thing, it will actually redirect them and say, tell us more about that.
Oh, nice.
And kind of has an AI that sort of prompts with a few questions to say, you know, dig into that a little bit more, so we can kind of figure out, okay, are we missing something with this particular situation, or is it just that's really the way they feel, and that's, you know, they can just type whatever into those and move on, but it's just a nice way to dig a little deeper when that does come up. So I'm really looking forward to getting this tool out there. We can run as many of these at one time as we want on either side of the platform. So I'm looking forward to getting our principals trained, because we can send it out to the community, to staff, to students. It's a really simple interface. So it's kind of going to be, I think, a little bit game changing as far as how we do surveys and things. So, and
People might want to fill them out.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm hoping, is that there's a little bit more engagement, a little bit more, they get to the end and they can see, and they might actually check back in on the survey, because I know a lot of folks sort of take the survey and then it's out of mind and they don't ever come back to it. So.
Well, and people, when you're saying that, I'm thinking, oh, then because I may not be thinking of something, but then someone else will make a comment, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is super important. Or, oh no, I think that's not necessarily.
It's super tricky, because when the messages go out, because I heard it a number of times at that town hall, they said, I never got that message that the SRO was paused. Like, I never got it. And then they're like, oh, they went back and it had come through, but it might have been during their work day, or maybe it was the night they had to, you know, babysit their nephews. And so they didn't see it, and no one thinks, oh, at the end of the night, let's look to see what his parents square did today. You know, so the push out, it's tricky, because I thought, well, they should do a text message then, but then, you know, like if you do it at midnight, you know, Becky was always like, if you do the message at midnight, then they'll get it first thing in the morning, and people look at their, you know, social media or whatever in the morning, but you don't want that either, because then you have people saying, I just got all this chiming at midnight.
You turn your phone off.
Yeah, well, I know, but hey, you get all kinds of,
you can't
be intuitive, but
real sleep if it's
and
dinging.
I don't know what the answer is.
I think some of that is parents who, I think we need to have some pathways, like feeling overwhelmed by the number of messages you're getting.
Yeah.
There's a digest function, so you literally get one message at the end of the day that has all of your messages for that day, and it not feeling that you're getting enough, then
Right.
here's the pathway you can go
They
this
just
way.
don't know because
Um,
exactly you could, because I used to get text, email, everything, and you just lay it down. I'll just get, email, and then I can get to it and check my email when it's a good time for me.
So I think we just need to do a better job of communicating even what those options are within the platform, because it can do
Where's the settings?
all
where
of
they
those
find
things
it.
and kind of go through the settings. Our bilingual family liaisons are excellent at this.
So
They
we could
become
we could send them.
Parent Square experts almost. So yeah, if you get questions from parents, have them contact, reach out, and they will walk them through kind of how to go through some of those settings.
What works for them,
and
so that
yeah.
they get the messages on time.
Yep.
Yeah, because
Or
they
the
usually.
messages from the district as well as the school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we send out a lot of notifications, but if that's turned off on your subscription, you won't see those.
Gotcha. So you maybe the site didn't message you, but you're doing it, but they're not getting your messages.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds like a something they could stop in at parent night at high school.
Yes.
How to set your settings.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking. Or even if I could video them doing a mock of a session that they would do with
And
the
send
parent
that
and
out.
Yeah.
send that out, make it available on our
Just
website
post it
to
on
say,
the website so
Yeah.
anybody can watch
Yeah.
it.
here you go. Here's how you walk through those settings and change them, and here it is in Spanish if that's what you need. And
Right. But visual is good.
Sounds like a student project for our
I think so.
digital media
It's
class.
a tutorial.
Yes. Any other questions about LCAP? Sorry.
Okay. 11.3 FBSD board meeting calendar 2025 draft second read.
So hopefully we were able to incorporate your feedback on that.
It looks like all the changes are there.
This is just the policy. That's recommended by CSBA.
Oh, no, we're on the calendar.
3 is the calendar.
Oh, I skipped
You
that.
jumped.
Sorry.
Skip that. It's not
So I looked at the dates and they look fine. It looks like reflective of what we talked about last month, but the agenda setting dates need to be adjusted.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
Good catch.
just,
Particularly for January.
yeah. Well, actually, January, June, August, and December. Because we wouldn't want to have an agenda setting on December 8th.
Those aren't
and-
part of the approved calendar anyway.
Right, just making sure that they get adjusted.
But they should be right on this chart.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now there's 4 areas that need to be
Okay, we'll get those
adjusted.
adjusted.
But otherwise, the dates look good for the regular board meetings.
Okay. 11.4 recommended update board policy 0415 equity.
This is just as a part of our ongoing equity work that gets carried forward. I would ask if you have feedback on our equity statement to send that around to either Renee or myself so that we can get that. So thank you for those who have responded. I just want to make sure we capture everybody's input on it, and then we'll bring that back hopefully next month. So.
Now, I'm sorry, I think I might have missed some emails. Was that the thing you were?
Right, and then I sent it to Renee, and Renee pushed it out to everyone and said, get it done before Sunday at X date. I don't remember the date.
I don't know if I
So,
saw that
yeah.
email, so I need to go,
it
okay,
came out
so it's an
from
email
Renee.
from
It was
Renee.
like- It was like,
I'm
2
sorry,
days.
when I
Cause I gave
didn't
it
have
to her
cell phone service.
Friday, and she got it out on Tuesday.
Yeah, 'cause
So we met on Thursday, I got it out on Friday, she got it out on Tuesday, the Tuesday after we had our equity day. So look on the emails around that time.
or I can resend it.
Yeah.
Sorry, so I did not respond because I did not see the email.
Yeah, there was, I think we got quite a few that day, it was like rapid fire.
Yes.
So
I was
like,
gonna say,
trying to like, oh gosh, there's something else for me to read.
I'll just log into my
But
Gmail. and
I
not-
have enjoyed the sessions with Nicole. There's so much governance with it. And I think it just, in essence, a lot of it is giving empathy and just having a different lens and different look and a pause. So I think, I mean, this is just a CSBA policy, but we have been working the year.
Right,
just
and it's
kinda-
late and I know, but I
yeah.
think one of the things we talked about at the meeting, that we're not discussing what we're doing
Mhm.
publicly.
What the
So
work is, yeah.
maybe next meeting, we
Yeah.
can spend some time out, or maybe put it earlier, but maybe tie it to Joe's, so that we can actually share a little bit about.
Yeah, and I just
what we're
wanted to
doing.
throw that out there, that it's It's not just we're looking at this policy,
Right,
kicking the
there's a
can. There's
reason why
so
we're-
many hours we've spent,
Yes.
and it's not just, there's so much to it.
It dates back to Kathy and Joe and I starting during the pandemic
CSBA,
with the
yeah.
CSBA, with Nicole,
Mhm.
and realizing she was amazing. We needed her here.
I mean, I even filled out the Google form today that I want to do the book study with the staff because
Awesome.
I made sure it wasn't the same book, but,
It's the same authors, so
Right,
some of the
yeah.
content's gonna be a little,
Yeah.
but.
well, I just feel like personally, for my personal development and in this role that
Lifelong learner.
Yeah, I just feel like I need to soak in everything I can so I can be a better contributor, listener. I don't pause very well,
I'm still
as you all
learning.
know.
So the equity statement, will that become part of the equity policy? I guess that's up to us, right?
Yes, I mean, we could add that in. I
Yeah.
think that's ultimately the goal, just because it humanizes the language a lot more than, policy that stays a little drier, so.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay, item 12.1, board reports. Whoever would like to start?
I just want to say again, thank you. Well, thank you, but also thank you for the 6 years of working with you, all of you. It has been really, when I say it's really been an honor, it really has. And I feel really good about the work that we've done. I feel great about this equity work. And I really appreciate everybody being very thoughtful, listening, pausing. You do pause, Kathy. And really digesting and processing and being thoughtful about caring about our kids. So thank you. And I did it without crying.
Mary and I did cry together a lot, so it's not that I'm trying to point out, I was a weeper too.
We could always do another special meeting, Yeah.
Oh,
You've got until December 16, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We could throw a special in there.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, and I'll go on to Mary's premise that I just, I know we're having all these committees and we're having all these meetings but that stuff is focused on kids, each and every student in our district. And I know it adds another meaning, I know it adds another thing to Joe's plate, but I'm very excited because the work is getting done and there are things, even if they're small, every time we meet, there's something immediately that's positively impacting our students and our staff. So I just want to.
It matters.
Yes, it does matter, even if people think it's another meeting and another thing I have to do. But
It's always good. I mean, I always learn something.
Yeah.
I mean, it is because I have a whole list of meetings I went to, but it's all, and that's why we're here. I mean, we're wanting to improve the environment and transparency, and then the opportunity, because we can't meet everyone, but to know that everyone's available on a phone call away. I mean, if something's not happening, then people need to know about it.
Yep.
Anybody else? Good little reports? No? I just want to say everyone was super excited about the lights during the football game. You got that
The
remote thing or whatever, and every time they scored, the lights,
Oh,
everyone
you
was
got
like,
to see
woo.
that.
Yes.
Oh.
It was definitely the highlight of the game.
clickers?
Well, they do this whole
They make it.
on
Yeah, it's
off,
they call it
a wave,
paparazzi
the lights
mode
do a
where they
wave
all-
sort of thing,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Very
Yeah.
Off to-
The first time it happened, everyone thought the power went out.
Yeah, at first I was like,
Just triggered a power outage.
Yeah.
That happened at a town game, right? The power went out on the Lower League game or something a couple
Oh,
weeks
yeah.
ago.
one of
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
over that way, and
Yeah.
it was like 30 minutes to get it back
Yeah.
on.
Oh, no.
So it was PTSD from that.
At basketball games, but
Yeah, and it was really great just to attend the town hall. Really
yeah.
liked listening to everybody and the kids, and there's a lot of discussion yet to come.
Mhm.
And the piece around it is communication.
Yeah.
I mean, just, it sounds like the families that were there that were at our table wanted more communication, more outreach from the teachers, and wanted to be, they kind of want more push out, but which is always a challenge. But so this communication is a big piece of it.
Okay, anything else? Board reports? No? All right, 12.2, advanced planning suggestion for future board meetings.
I think we should line up some specials between now. No.
Well, we do need to start thinking about when our retreat is going to be, because it originally was supposed to, way back when I started on the board, it was in it was, your people, your new people or continuing people were installed, and then the next month you.
Yeah.
So.
So maybe at the
I
December
mean, I
meeting,
guess.
we can schedule something.
Yeah, and it's hard
Once
to
we
do it
have-
without knowing
yeah.
who the people are, but,
Exactly.
January and February if you're doing it on a weekend, it's gonna be.
Well,
'Cause
maybe
we already have
Joe
one of our
should
equity things.
suggest a couple of dates, and then we can kind of have them in the ready when we have.
I know that one of the thoughts was making January 11th a little bit longer, if that works for folks, and doing equity work and then workshop, kind of planning. I know it's a lot in a day.
Yeah.
So
Well, we
that's,
could have a
Just
nice
get-
lunch break
Yeah,
together.
but people
and
just kind of get burned out though after.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't know how long, if it's a 2-hour or 3-hour with Nicole.
it would be 3 hours there, and then
Yeah,
it becomes pretty intense. So I
Yeah,
I wanted to bring that back because we
yeah.
kind of have held that space. But yeah, we can put out some dates to try to get something scheduled. Hopefully within January or very early February, if that works for folks. So we'll send out something hopefully tomorrow.
And then with that, will she be arranging the board walks, and all the ones that we have scheduled are not going forth? Because I have one for like middle school or something, and.
I think
So
we're gonna
should we
wait to
just
see.
hold off on all those?
Yeah, we'll hold off on them
Maybe let the
and
admin know that not to expect us on that chart.
yeah, and then we will check with our, as the board gets seated and
Yeah.
make that a part of our organizational meeting to kind of, I think, set those dates, and then maybe even pick we'll do this on a rotation. I think kind of the way we do with everything else is just to say at some point in October we'll go visit the middle school or whatever that.
Like a set
Yeah.
schedule.
So
And I've been invited, I guess I didn't talk about that communication. I was invited to come, because of one of my posts on, social media about, to go to see the stuff that's happening at Dana Gray with the, kind of the teacher room and anyway, Erica emailed me about
Cool.
some things happening, so, if someone else wants to join me to see that,
Yeah.
we can try to find a date.
Well, if you go before December 16th, I'll go.
Well, you could come after that.
Well,
you
you
could be
have
a
to let me
third
know.
then.
'Cause you're not
That's
at
right.
quorum
You could be a
anymore.
third.
Oh, that's right, I can go to all of them.
Yeah, you've got more flexibility.
Boardwalk, oh, well, okay.
Well, that's just a site visit.
Board alumni.
There you go.
This was also a time to talk about nominations, right? Because usually this is on the calendar to say, what's it looking like for next time. So there's no shock factor, but I don't know what people are thinking.
Well, historically, it's been a 2-year
Yep,
run,
it's-
right?
Yep, most people, yeah.
Not for me, I did not. But this is
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
Was it always 2 years before you did the first 2 years?
It's the max 2 years, but it seemed like everyone was doing
Mhm.
2-year stints.
Oh, prior
Because
to
I
that
feel
even.
like you kind of just get in a groove.
Yep,
And then it's over.
very true.
And then you're done.
Because you have the full lens down, now you're ready to embark, in the sense of, it takes a bit, to
Oh,
get.
yeah,
'cause
get your footing.
Even though no one board member is supposed to have more information as board president, you kind of do, because you're going to all the agenda
Mhm.
settings, and you get
Oh,
more
yeah.
of a pulse of the district, and so it just feels like you'd be pulled out from it, now that you've got a handle of, all the mechanics. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to continue to serve if that's the pleasure. So,
And Kathy, you're happy in your role?
Unless someone else wants it.
Okay. And then the only other thing, I was still trying to think of this board chat, we had 2 people today, which is great, but I don't know, when the new board, or if we'll have one new member for sure, we know that for a fact. But board chat at lunchtime, 12:30, so that we could just bring a paper sack lunch wherever we're at, if it's virtual, and then at least we're doing that, but I don't know how it is for a staff member. Like for me, I could see 12:30 being great because normally I can take a break by then and I might be eating and it'd be more casual and people could do, you know, any staff or people that like parents, guardians could usually have a lunchtime. So I just thought that might be a thing to consider for future. I don't know.
I think the only issue there would be we wouldn't have probably very much staff participation just because at any given time, 12:30 is not really a lunchtime for most
right,
of our
but,
staff
but
members.
3:30 hasn't seemed to be.
Hasn't really either. So
yeah, I was just thinking.
Maybe we could include that in our first thought, whatever it
Thought
was
exchange,
called. Yes.
Yeah,
that'd be a good thing to put out.
Because I don't want to give it
idea.
up, even though it's not being used, but it's so effective when it's needed. So you'd hate, you know, I hate to have it go away, but I'm just trying to figure out a new time.
Well, and one of the things Nicole did, and I did when I was in the counseling office, we did, like we went down to, when Los G's was in the little strip mall by the, we sat, Mark and I set up a table and we sat there and we advertised it and it was, you know, coffee with the counselors and they could people could come, and Nicole mentioned, you know, going to where people are, so, you know, I don't know how much Stevie Star is being used, but you know, if we hung out there one morning, we had talked, you know, meeting on pickup time. We went to the parent nights. That was not really a successful adventure. But, you know, if we go to things that are already happening and Safeway's a hot one. But, you know, do that instead of the, instead of the board chat. I mean, do the board, well, we talked about changing the name too, but, you know. Anyway, something to talk about in January when we have our thing is
100%.
how to, I don't know if we'll have any feedback by then, but I think.
Yeah, we should. The goal is to have the thought exchange set up for the district. They were shooting for mid-December.
I don't know if we'd want to send out something just for that, but you never know.
Well, no, I mean, we could incorporate it with some other things too. And they have a huge bank of like things that other districts have asked and that have been successful in the way that they're asked and that sort of thing. So we have
well, and maybe we can
a lot of
tie it
knowledge
to
we can pull on.
what Diana was saying about doing our own Healthy Kids survey. Do that as like our first one and add the
safety,
the communication,
Safety,
about
Yeah.
safety.
well, the communication piece, and that's one of the things is what time would be a.
And they have a nationally normed, that's basically a school climate survey, and that at the end we could actually compare to national norms, which is a little different than the California Healthy Kids, where you can look at compared to other schools, but it's
More difficult.
it's a little more difficult
Yeah, it's
to see.
cumbersome.
And it's too long. I think the kids get, you talk
Or-
about not being engaged, I mean, by the time they get done with that stinking survey.
I don't know how many responses they have, like the mundane, if there's 5 or 4, it just
Oh,
gets
the
like,
answer options?
I don't like, yeah, exactly.
Well, there's that, and then it's
too much.
If they take it all.
some of them are
Differentiating.
60, 70 questions.
Yeah.
for
Well, and the
students just-
questions are like one word different, and so you start getting a little bit bored, and then that's the one that has the weapons, but then they don't define what weapons are, and then the kids are misconstruing what that means, so
Yep.
it's just too much.
We still have a lot to do.
Yeah.
Oh, and when you get to assignments, I hope that at least one of you joins the Friends of Mendocino College Coast Center group.
That'll be next month.
Yes, I know. I'm just putting a plug out for you. I know it's next month, but I hope somebody wants to do it.
All
At
right.
least one, maybe 2.
I'll bring
Anything,
somebody along with me either way.
Oh, good.
anything else for advanced planning? Okay. It'd be nice to, before the next meeting, have that list of all the committees and stuff so we can think about.
The
The ancillary duties?
exercise,
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
This is the old one.
Do you want this one?
Yeah, no, I'm just,
It's in the
The
drive, yeah.
it is. I think there was more than this though. But maybe there's
We're
not.
adding more.
I know.
'Cause
it's
there's
like
3 more committees.
Doesn't seem like it's everything, but,
Well, those aren't board committees.
okay. All right, housekeeping.
So one thing I did want to point out is our DLAC, sorry that says ELAC up there, meeting was changed from November 21st to December 3rd. There was a conflict on November 21st that had to be adjusted for. So
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 it's
just-
the DLAC or the ELAC?
The DLAC.
It's gonna be the DLAC, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do we wanna make sure somebody's going to that? It's the
Yeah,
Big
'cause
one?
December 3rd, you said?
December 3rd, yes.
Anyone available? Okay. And Three Rivers Board meeting on the 19th?
That's December, oh, this,
November.
November 19th.
Third, I might be able, it's 5:30.
Yeah, I
Uh,
can't do
Three
the
Rivers, yes.
19th, but I could do the December 3rd.
I'm also available.
Three Rivers is the 19th. I have a 4 o'clock meeting, but I don't know how long it's gonna be.
I mean, I can do it, but I won't be seeing you in December. Well, you
Report-
might,
You could
I might.
report out public comment.
I could come do public comment on.
Or I can bring anything significant, though.
Yeah.
Three Rivers has been doing fine. so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Diana, let me know if you can. I'll try. I'll jump on.
I'd like to go.
Okay.
Oh, you just do virtual? So I might be able to do that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do virtual.
Which
Yeah, you
one?
can do
The-
virtual.
They still have the
Three
virtual
Rivers?
Yeah,
option.
yeah.
They do.
It's not too interruptive for them, like our evening tonight?
No, they're very nice.
They don't
Yes,
always
they're very
notice you,
accommodating.
but they try
Oh,
to
that's
remember.
okay.
They forget that you're there sometimes, but.
Yes.
That's okay.
And their meetings go
Pretty quick?
pretty
They're
quickly. I
quick.
mean, it's
Okay.
usually 30 to 45 minutes.
Because I
Yeah.
appreciate their agenda, so I do
Mhm.
look on there and
Mhm.
see they've got a lot of good reports
Mhm.
that are populated, so it's
Yeah.
nice to.
Okay. And then who's agenda setting next time?
Me.
You.
Because I switched with Diana.
Okay.
That's Tuesday. Oh my gosh.
I
It's
know.
going away. Okay.
And do we have a date for that?
Yeah, it's on the calendar.
The group?
Sorry, I'm trying to put the DLAC
It
meeting
is
in
December
there.
2nd at 3:30. KB.
That's a chart on there. December 2nd is agenda setting.
Is that too far in advance?
I don't believe so. I mean,
Too
the
late.
agenda's.
Because
Because
of
we
the
moved the
16th,
meeting.
yeah.
Change
Yeah,
the meeting.
I think it, honestly, the December agenda is pretty prescribed,
Okay.
Mhm.
particularly when we're doing the organizational meeting and these other pieces. So unless it's absolutely urgent business, I'm probably not gonna overload that meeting.
Okay.
You know, just try to get things handled because there's so much time that's devoted to the other pieces that we have to do.
Okay. So we'll leave it on the 2nd.
That's a Monday. Would you rather move it to Tuesday? Or
Nope, I'm not. Monday's fine. Is that okay with you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right now.
Okay.
Life is
So with
almost
that, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah, good job.
I
Mary.
will